All right, good evening. Welcome everybody to the Thursday, February 17th, 2022 Planning Board meeting. I'd like everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, so introduction to board members. I'll start straight in front of me with Paul Amatucci. To the left of him is Phil Roy, and then we have Jerry Graybill, Dave Andreessen, and myself, Michael LaRue. Phil, you are going to be a voting member tonight. Next is the public comment. It's open to anyone in the town. You got to go to the mic. That's when we nope. Okay, seeing no one else. Moving forward, we're going to go to approval of minutes for February 3rd, 2022. Okay. Further discussion? All in favor? There we go. Okay. Next is public hearing. Requested ordinance changes, disorderly building ordinance, land use ordinance, 2.2 definitions, village overlay district expansion, signs, access to lots, and planning board appointment subdivision regulations. So this is open to anyone. Now this pertains to okay, so just start with the disorderly building ordinance. Start with that.
Our life safety guys, our public safety guys, police, fire, they're responding to buildings upwards around 45 times. So we have this in place for all single-family dwellings, all duplexes, all multi-units, everywhere now. If it passes, if you guys pass it, that's it, really.
Okay.
I've explained it a couple times, so.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, so no one else is moving on that, so we'll go to definitions 2.2 marijuana cooperative and marijuana cooperative.
The last planning board meeting, just a little bit and mentioned that it was happening so that a husband and wife could vote in their primary. But when I read the change, it seemed like it was of larger scale than that, so on it and perhaps give you something to think about at the. So, as I understand it, change is if somebody lives that currently people in that grow medical marijuana. Change is that now 3 people grow medical marijuana. Or the other change that's happening right now, 1 person in a home grow adult use marijuana. Being proposed that 2 people
can grow adult use. And so I'm wondering why the change is being recommended. I had a brief conversation with Tammy. It doesn't sound like a lot of people are asking for this, and I just want to get, I know him. I want to make sure we're getting the right balance between the residents in the town and marijuana growth. And so if I'm correct in how I've outlined it, on the medical marijuana side, that means each person can grow 30 mature plants or 500 square feet canopy, 60 immature plants, and unlimited seedling. And then on the adult use side, it's tiered. So the lowest is 30 mature plants and then unlimited for the other categories. In tier 2, they can grow 2,000 square feet of marijuana. And so I then thought, okay, what does this mean? It means if someone lives in a house, then 2 people live in a house, or if we're talking about medical marijuana, if 3 people live in a house, they each can grow 30, 60, and unlimited per person. So that's 3 times 30, right, 90, and so on, you know the math. So it's increasing the scale of production that can happen in a medical cooperative location. And as you know, we don't regulate marijuana cooperatives as tightly as we do regular marijuana production facilities. So this doesn't just pertain to homes, right? It can be in someone's house, I'm assuming a barn or garage, but also pertains to apartment buildings. And so in Berwick, we live in a rural community and we've got some unique buildings. So for instance, if you have an apartment building that has 3 apartments in it and you have a large space in the back that can be used to grow marijuana, then, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you have 2 people living in each apartment and it's medical marijuana, then they can share that space in the back and they can grow a pretty large amount of marijuana. On the other side, if it's adult use, if 2 people live in each apartment, then you have 6 people that can grow marijuana in the back space, which is a larger amount of marijuana. So my concern is that we're creating a loophole with marijuana. And I feel that if levels like this, if I have it correct, if levels like this can occur in marijuana cooperatives, then they should be, that's a larger scale. In my mind, it's a business, and they should be regulated like every other marijuana business in the town. And so everything listed in 8.25 should apply to them. So I'm really here tonight asking that before you vote on this to move it forward, that you really consider all the ramifications of what this will do. Because to me, it's not just increasing from 2 to 3 or 1 to 2. It's got some pretty significant impacts. Unless I'm seeing it incorrectly, but I'm not sure I am. So just a couple more points. As you may or may not be aware, and Jen, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm on the comp plan committee, so I learned through that about 50% of the town is on wells. And so I wanted to give you this information to consider as you're thinking about marijuana. So if you increase the level of production as I've outlined, and the facility is on a well, then I feel like the planning board has a responsibility to think about that. And are the existing septic tanks designed to disperse the water that now has chemicals in it so that the wells are protected in the surrounding area? And are the leach fields and septic systems large enough to handle the volume? And if they're not, you know, what's the town going to do about that? Are they going to require that the septics be increased so that everything is handled correctly? And then I guess in closing, I just want to look at my notes to make sure I haven't forgotten anything here. I guess in closing, I was thinking about everything that's going on with the town. And there's a lot. You know, we have the Edge, which is a pretty exciting opportunity that's been in the works for a really long time. And I just think it's a great project. It's a big project, so it's going to take a lot of the town's resources. There's a lot of solar developments that have happened. That requires management of the town. And we're a small town, and we have limited resources. There's large subdivisions that are going in. That requires management. And we decided to put a hold on marijuana so that we could manage it well. And so I see that this increase is contradictory to what our approach has been, which is let's keep marijuana where it's at, let's get good at managing it, and then relook at where we are. I know when I was talking with Tammy, that part of the change is happening because it just lines up with the state. And I've been in front of you before about marijuana. Just because the state offers it, I don't think it means that we as a town should offer it. You know, we've got to strike the right balance between those people that want to grow marijuana and those people that live here, and have it be the best balance for all of us. So I just ask that you do your due diligence when voting on this item. And I appreciate the time to speak to you all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else for marijuana? Will the marijuana ordinance change? If so, just come up to the podium. All right.
Maybe I'll Jody Rogers, 420 Portland Street. And maybe you guys can clarify. I'm not here for this item, but I think what you guys are intending to do is make a difference between the marijuana caregiver home production, which would fall under home occupation, versus a cooperative, which you would expect is a larger piece of property and not a residential home necessarily, but something that might have a caregiver's place in it. So I think that there's a big difference between allowing it in somebody's residence versus a cooperative, which is a bigger establishment. I could be wrong, but I think that's where the confusion is.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on, now we're going to go to the 4.1B Village Overlay District expansion. Oh, definition for subdivision. Sorry. Okay. I don't see anyone coming up for that one. So next is the 4.1.B Village Overlay District expansion.
That could answer questions if your community members have any.
Name's Rainey Lapierre, and we requested the village overlay to be moved to the side of School Street, which is 74 School Street down to Cumbies. If you guys have any questions about moving that?
Have you spoken to any of your abutters and what are their feelings on?
I have spoken to my neighbor who loves mows and hasn't had one in a few years, so she's actually looking forward to it. And the neighbor to my right is Rainey's Used Cars. The neighbor that lives up there is also down for it. And actually, if his place ever goes up for sale, we would really love to have that because that is a nice storefront right there. Yes.
Steve?
I thought I saw something in the paper that Lowe's was actually going to Somersworth. Is that true?
There is a Moe's in Somersworth actually already.
Okay.
Yep. It's in the, I think it's called a Stop and Go or the Quick and Go gas station in front of Market Basket.
Oh, okay.
Yep. It's inside a little gas station, kind of
Okay.
hard to see.
And they're not worried about the proximity? It's not too close to this other business?
Nope, nope. Actually, my wife here, Deanna, works for Cheryl, who is the, I guess, the owner of all the Moe's franchises. Her father's the one who originally started the one in Portsmouth and branched out to 3 other stores. And she's the one who would give us the yay or nay on that, but because one is in New Hampshire and we would be Maine, the next closest one to the state of Maine is Sanford. So there will be potential for Berwick or North Berwick and so on, so.
So is the expansion of the village overlay necessary for this to happen, for that business to happen?
So the reason we requested this, because I had turned in some paperwork with drawings on how we wanted to look, but we were 500 square feet short on property because it wanted to be a multifunction. We wanted to live there and have a storefront. So because we were 500 square feet short, we were told we could either purchase land from either neighbor or we could vote and have that move to include, which would make it like a multi-use residential and commercial area.
Is there a back-off position you have? Let's say that this doesn't go through. You have a back-off position to buy land from neighbors?
It would be possible, but we're looking at a 5-foot by 100-foot strip. So
Yeah.
I would have to see what they would be willing to sell. If
Sure.
they say $100,000, I'm gonna be like, well, I guess we ain't getting the most. Or is it just, I gotta figure out what the value of that would be so I could make an offer type of deal.
Right.
But that is a possibility if
Sure.
this doesn't happen. So,
How many square feet are you outside of the requirement currently?
it's across the street, so about 35 feet.
35 feet?
Yeah, I believe there's only 6 properties, which would be 74 School Street, which is mine, down to Cumberland Farms. So any of those houses aren't on the road, it would just be those 6. Because behind us is the development.
Let me ask our planner here and code enforcement. Is there a way around this, for instance, not changing the village overlay and yet granting a variance to allow the business?
Anybody can come in to the Board of Appeals for a variance. We can't suggest whether they were to approve or deny that. We don't know.
Okay.
Right.
But that's also an avenue?
Yeah.
Okay.
And when it comes to variances with the Board of Appeals in 10 years of dealing with Board of Appeals, I have seen one passed.
Right.
And that takes a lot of maneuvering for the organization to do it.
Okay.
Just to give you a heads up on that part of it, being in the office all week, I've had a lady that just got her paperwork in Illinois today. She's one of the property owners. She rents her property here. She called and she said, well, is this gonna affect my value? And I said, no, it's gonna probably make it a better value because you can now use it as a multi-use.
That was my next
Facility.
question. Because I am new to all of this. I'm more of the get it done type of person. What are the pros and cons of moving it opposed to not moving it? So I guess really when they say, we're gonna move the village boundary so I can do this, I'm like, okay. I guess I'm looking for what would be the pros or cons. Why is this a good idea or why is this a bad idea?
Yeah, the board isn't able to answer that question for you, but you're welcome to
Okay.
come in and we can do that for you.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm like, yeah, if it's gonna affect people's values of the homes, it's like.
Yeah,
well, you know, I really
so with the
want
public
property value
hearing,
Just so
yeah.
I can,
We're just here to hear people's concerns with this right now.
okay.
So at this point, if there's anyone else that has something to
Because
say.
I don't want to move this and
Yep,
then come
nope.
to find out,
Yep.
oh, well, now I can't put a garage on my property. And I'd be like, oh, well, now, so.
Yep.
Have you taken any form of action to contact all of the affected butters to?
Both of them?
Well, this affects more than,
There's 6.
there's 6.
Yes, no, there is a guy who's 1, 2, 3, third house down for me. He's down for it also. He really likes it. His property actually abuts mine. So where my rear pin is, my property line, my neighbor's, and he's got a large field. He's the one with the T property. If you look at the tax map, he's the one that I think 3 houses down. He's got the whole field behind all my neighbors. There would be maybe a possibility I could buy 500 square feet, but now I literally have to cross that pin to get to that. So it'd be like technically I own 500 more square feet, but like you wouldn't be able to step to it without stepping on other people's property to get to it.
Would you be amenable to, and this is just a suggestion, this isn't task direction.
No, I'm
at
here to
all,
learn, that's what
but
I'm
yeah,
doing.
and I'm learning as well. But in the interest of being neighborly and in the interest of, my concern is if we change this, we set a precedent that we will do it again. And if we make a lot of changes based on precedent,
Yeah.
if we do it, what I'm saying is we do it for you.
Yeah. I was gonna
And
say,
somebody comes in next week and they want
I
to do
was
the
gonna say,
same
is
thing.
this
another-
including just my
Ha-
property, or is this
Okay,
including
we're
all
kind of
of
going a
theirs?
little too far through this public hearing. I think we just need to address this in the old business after the public hearing.
I'll have
Um,
Okay,
Thank
sure.
you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else for the subdivision or the village overlay expansion? Okay, next is 7.13 signs.
I'm Cyrus Morgan. This is Marie Miller. We're from Envision Berwick. And we're part of the group that proposed the changes to the signs, and we're just here for any questions you guys may have.
Okay. Okay, seeing how no one came up, moving forwards, 7.21 access to lots.
Jenny Mccabe, 24th semester for the town of Berwick. This one's a little tricky. So, this ordinance was proposed changed by a gentleman here in town, where he lives on a private dirt road. On that private dirt road, there's a house that doesn't belong to him, and then there's his house. And he wants his daughter and grandchildren to be able to come and live next door to him. So we allow that as accessory dwelling units, but this is a little bit different. He wants to break off a piece of his own land, gift it to his daughter, she can build. He's not the only one that wants this. So over the past several years, we've had a lot of people come in talking about this, wanting this ordinance to change. They've tried to change it before. So we kind of reached out to other towns, and it was a little bit of a nightmare, but we finally got some understanding on what other towns did. And kind of what makes sense. So you'll see here in front of you, one dwelling unit, that doesn't really change much, besides the note below. 2 dwelling doesn't really change. It really changes 3 to 5. So right now, if you apply for a building permit on a private road, with that 3rd building permit, you also have to submit a letter that's saying that you're going to bring it up to town standards and you're also going to pave it. So this would change it, that 3 to 5 dwelling units would pretty much meet all the same standards, but you wouldn't be paving it. And then come to the 6 or more dwelling units, like subdivision, something like that, it would become more of a permanent, it would be still a private road, but you would have to have the paving added to that. This is something that we should look forward to in our town. That's really it. Do you have any questions, Mike, or anybody? Go ahead, Dave.
So, say for example, out in R3, you have 5 homes that go, or say you have 4 homes in a neighborhood, and you put a 5th there. You telling me that they can pave the road, no problem, in order to get the permit,
So,
or not pave the road?
so how our standard is now, and it's a little confusing to people. if you and I lived on the same dirt road and your daughter, parents, whoever wanted to build, you had a big acreage lot in the back and you wanted to split a piece off or just gift that whole lot to them and you wanted them to build, what they would have to do is they would have to pave up to the first house. The end of the first house would get the pavement. So you would be taking your budget to pave the beginning of that road, and it wouldn't even really benefit you. I mean, it really wouldn't. You don't have to pave to your driveway at that point. Paving's expensive, you know. So it's really, this ordinance is really about bringing our kids home and on our property and having, you know, our family close by, or, you know, being able to say, hey, you know what, I own a farm and I'm ready, you know, I have a farmhouse and I have another house over here, and I'd really like to bring my, you know.
Isn't it currently over 3 homes, then you have to pave
No, it's after 2.
after 2?
The third one, you need a letter saying that you're going to pave, and you cannot get certificate of occupancy on your house until it is paved
And we're gonna
past
do
that
away
first
with
driveway.
that.
Not going to really do away with it. We're going to do away with the paving part of it, but it's still going to have to be 28 feet wide, 18 inches of bank run gravel, thick placed and compacted with a minimum of 4-inch cobble, part with trees with side slopes. If the road has dead ends, an acceptable turnaround shall be approved, which is a hammerhead or a cul-de-sac by the fire department. We're pretty much taking out the pavement part of it and then moving it to 6 or more dwellings on a road. You know, a lot of surrounding towns, they do have those dirt roads where you can have more than, you know, 2 or 3 dwellings on it before you have to pave. So we're just asking that Berwick kind of matches them a little bit
I've
more.
always been a fan of over 3. You put pavement down. I mean, why are we going to do away with this? What's the point of doing away with this?
We got a letter suggesting that we do it, and that's our job to do it.
Okay.
I don't really have a better answer for
Yeah.
you, you know,
Okay.
so.
Okay.
It doesn't affect, like, you know, go ahead.
I just saw recently the state has changed their stance on tiny homes. Is this kind of as a side effect of that? Is that?
How we look at tiny homes is accessory dwelling unit, so no.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Seems like that's it.
Anything else?
Yep.
Good? Sorry, Dave. I don't know the answer.
That's okay.
Okay.
I'm sure you will.
Yeah. Oh, I bet.
So 11.2, now planning board appointment. Subdivision Regulations, Article 12.2.b.3.d.
The planning board appointment is 11.2.
Okay, all right. Just how it was just semicolon there, so I thought it was part of it.
I'm Tammy again. The reason I had suggested this to the board was to make it easier on the board, and I'm sorry, but I'm being selfish, on me. Trying to remember who's a regular member, who's an alternate member, who's taking the place of an alternate member to be able to vote. When you have the 7 regular members on your board, it also gives your applicants a better chance because you have a more diverse voting audience on the board. It helps them, it helps the town. Everybody here has a diverse background. And this way, if you have a 7-member board for a hearing, you know you're going to get the best possible vote you can possibly get for your applicants. It's going to be the most understanding you have for your applicant, along with keeping the town secure. So that was the reason why I suggested this to you.
Okay.
Any questions?
Dave?
We already talked about this, correct?
When I first mentioned it, yes, but I had to make it formal after that,
Yeah,
yes.
okay, so this is nothing new, this is what we talked about.
Yep,
Not
but
having any
your
alternate
audience,
members.
correct, the audience might have input on it. So that's why it has to
Yeah.
come before the public hearing.
Right. Okay,
Yeah.
just making sure.
All right, no one's coming up, so moving on. Next is the subdivision regs, Article 12.2.b.3.d, low volume excesses.
I'm going to speak for Tammy, Jenny Mccabe, Code Enforcement Officer, Town of Berwick. All right, so Number 3, access and width. Our standard right now is 20 feet. Our chief of fire has suggested that we increase it to 24 and 26 feet with a preferred width of 24 feet. Their point of updating this is, Tim, you're going to have to help if I get this wrong. Their point of updating this is so that if they enter a subdivision, and follow me here, and they're trying to get a fire truck in, or fire trucks in, or life safety vehicles in, that cars need to be able to get out as well. So 20 feet isn't quite wide enough when you have a 10-foot fire truck and some big trucks or whatever trying to get out. So he has requested that we increase this to 24 feet. How did I do, Tim? Is that it?
That was very good.
Great.
That is for new construction, correct?
All subdivisions that are already existing, this will not go towards.
It will be
This
grandfathered.
is.
Yep.
you know,
Up until it's voted in, anyone that's gone,
They are safe from the new ordinance.
right,
I don't really know the word.
excluded.
Their grandfather.
Yeah, yeah. They're excluded.
Take it.
Yeah.
They're excluded from the new ordinance. I
Yeah.
get that.
Okay.
Thank you.
But going forward, it would be all new subdivisions, correct?
Okay.
Okay.
Good evening. Just Steve Height with Civil Works. You guys have an applicant in front of you for final approval tonight. We had talked about this as well, and the chair just mentioned, anything that's posted but not voted on. We did talk to the fire chief, and we had that same conversation, where we had asked us to go to 24 feet. So where are we at? Are we at the old rules or the new rules?
You would still be at the old rules up until the vote of June.
No, because of back on his subdivision, it hasn't been decided yet, but he has a recommendation.
Okay.
24 was
All right.
on.
Their subdivision is actually how this all started.
Oh.
Just to give you a heads up.
Yeah, their subdivision
Yeah, well,
We can talk more during
Yep,
that
yep.
conversation.
We'll see it in old business. Yep.
Okay.
and it's not bad that we had a subdivision trigger it, because we all know that the road standards need to be updated, the subdivision regs need to be updated. And if we keep on updating them, all ordinances are with them.
Clarify something before we move forward. People that are at home watching kind of drop off as an answer. It wasn't their specific, there was nothing specific about their subdivision that triggered this. It's the increased size of the new fire trucks and the new equipment to get down on the road. That has nothing to do with necessarily that application. It's just an increase of size and equipment going forward that has come up, and it's
Okay.
to meet it.
Thank you. All right, seeing no one else?
As a point of fact, until the voters vote on this in June, the existing ordinance stands as it is, right?
That's what I assumed.
Life safety overrules any existing ordinance. We can talk further about it when the applicant comes up.
Yep.
Okay.
Let's do that. Okay, next
Jenny
is
McCabe, Code
Maine,
Enforcement Officer down in Berwick. Go ahead.
Maine Uniform Building and Energy Codes up to date to 2018.
July 2021, the state of Maine has updated their Maine Uniform Building and Energy Codes. You see them in front of you. 2018 International Building Code, 2018 Residential Code, 2018 International Plumbing Code, 2018 International Existing Building Code, 2015 International Energy Conservation Code. Currently, the town uses the 2015 codes for all listed above, except for the Energy Code, which is now 2009. We're asking that the town adopts the new code so we can move forward with and be in line with the state of Maine. Sure. Yeah, so we may go 21 stretch then we would be in line with the state of Maine. I think the state of Maine is going that direction. We just can't confirm it, so I can't present it to you.
Okay.
We're finding out.
What happened is they went to the 2015 code real quick, and there's a lot of stuff in there that makes sense but doesn't really make sense, is really hard to do. So that's why they're going to the 2021 stretch, so that they can get the R values that needed and some other things that are changed. If you need more, if you have questions on that, I'd be glad to explain it, but it's a lot, so.
Okay.
Good?
Yep.
Great.
All right, I think,
Jody Rogers, 420 Portland Street. I had exchanged emails with Tammy. Apparently you guys reviewed my request to reduce a setback last meeting.
yes.
And I was unaware of it, so I was wondering if I could just present tonight the reasons for it. Is that,
We did shoot it down. We voted on that, and that's.
so it can't,
Nope, it didn't even make it a public hearing.
You can feel free to talk
Yeah,
about
you
it,
can, yep.
but we can't discuss, we can't change our minds or do anything, act on it. You're more than willing to
Okay.
talk about it.
well, I would just like to say that, so I'm in the limited residential shoreland district. And as such, the setbacks, we're on Lubbers Brook. The setback is 100 feet for building. It's 75 feet for septic, 100 for building. The state recommends 75 for building and septic. So you folks have gone an extra 25 feet, which I don't know how familiar you are with it affects not only the limited residential, but the resource protection and the stream protection as well. So we're all on the 100-foot setback for buildings. And just so you know, the small strip that's in shoreland downtown only has a 25-foot setback to wetlands. So all of the 25 is in line with the state. The 100 is excessive, I think. I'm an environmental biologist. I think they've done their homework, and I think 75 is reasonable. For those of us in these shoreland areas, just for an example, if you're in that little downtown area, you get to cover your lot with maximum coverage of 70%. When you go to these others, I'm at 20%. So out of 9 acres or whatever, 20% coverage is not a lot, and then we've got this big setback. So we're getting squeezed from, and the other two zones, the stream protection and the resource protection, they're down to 10% maximum lot coverage. So there's a lot of hardship put on these, and I find it a little odd that the downtown ones get to go to 70% coverage, they get 25-foot setbacks. So I think if we just were in line with the state instead of adding to it, and I'm not sure there's a environmental or scientific basis for that, I think the state does a pretty good job of protecting our waterways. So I just wanted you folks to consider that, and maybe next time around.
Okay, thank you. All right, so now I'm going to close the public hearing. And now we'll start with the old business requested ordinance changes, and we'll just go one after the other. Disorderly building ordinance. I don't think there was really any questions on that one. Yep.
One thing that did not get mentioned right now, the Board of Selectmen will be the ones who actually set those fines, because they're the ones that do that part of it. These are just recommendations to them.
Yep. Okay. Do we have actions on this, or are we just?
You need to know whether or not you're going to pass it forward.
Okay.
So my suggestion would be to take each one.
Okay.
And that way it's official.
Okay.
So we're looking for a motion to approve the disorderly building ordinance, correct?
As amended.
I will make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? All in favor? Okay. Next, 2.2 definitions, marijuana cooperative. So, with a marijuana cooperative, all this is a simple definition change to allow up to 2 people to grow at their house. Right now it's set to 1, and how the definition is it says 2 or more medical marijuana or 2 adult use cultivators claiming a location as a primary residence in order to conduct marijuana home production. So we're still not pushing co-ops. The co-ops are, as far as I know, I don't even think we have any licensed co-ops. It would be a
Berwick doesn't allow licensing.
Right.
We don't have any.
Right. And then, is there any adult use cultivators? I don't even think that's allowed.
Our home ops doesn't allow adult use growing anyway,
Okay.
as of now.
So right now, the only thing that this definition change allows is just to have a secondary or a spouse at that one house. So you're basically just allowing a husband and wife to have their cultivation together before going to a bigger facility.
And on this, are we still talking about 30 plants and 60?
It's whatever this,
Or
yeah, that's
whatever
whatever
they are.
the state as an OMP has
Okay, so-
set for regulations.
So then there would be
It would
2,
double,
and then
it would
go
double,
to
yep.
60 and 120.
Yep.
Right.
Okay. Which I think it sounds pretty darn excessive for a residential home. Also, the other issue that I always have a problem with is what does it do to the neighbors? And when there's in-home growing, it's not isolated. My wife talked to a woman a couple of weeks ago who happens to live in a building where there is this in-home growing going on. All her furniture is ruined because all her clothing is ruined, basically from the smell that's getting in there because we don't properly regulate.
So to answer that, there actually is a smell ordinance. If ordinance, if it passes, well, if it's at a apartment, it's kind of hard to designate the area, but I would think that it would be at that residential building, that unit. It could not pass that unit. If it does, if that smell passed that unit, they could then get a call from Jen, or someone could call Jen and complain, and then she can take away their license. No?
The only thing that we can do is we can take away their home op.
Okay.
But they have 5 days to get
Fi-
their odor control in place.
Okay.
5 days is a long time when it's,
Yeah.
you know.
I'm still not comfortable with it, and I really don't think that it's going to be that useful.
Another issue, and I think we got to discuss it, it was brought up by Allison, and it's a good point that hadn't occurred to me previously, is with regard to apartment buildings and rentals. I think this is a good application if we go down that route for homeowners. But what are we doing to protect our landlords from nuisance tenants?
So the landlords themselves can make, it's tough because they ultimately have the say of what can and cannot go on in their house, in their building. If they don't want anyone growing there, they can say, I don't want anyone growing in there, and that can be on the lease.
Would that be, is it an overreach for us to make that a requirement for somebody who is in a rental property must have written landowner permission? Because it gives it teeth, and as somebody who is landlord, I certainly would not want somebody doing that in my home. Not a judgment call on what other people do, but I own that outcome. I own whatever residual odor or residue or whatever is in the home. And I think we do need to provide some level of protection for people who rent properties.
Okay.
Just food for thought.
Dave?
I am opposed to this change
Okay.
as well. You know, I think that we need to tread carefully when we enter this marijuana market, and I know that the town is, but this would be, I mean, you think, oh, it's just a husband and wife growing, but yeah, it's just another person growing, so I'm opposed to the change.
Okay.
So are we looking for a vote? Is that what we're looking for?
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah,
Can we take more time to get, do we need more time? Or is everybody's mind made up where they're
Well, I
at
think
with
we have
this?
to pass this to the select.
We do.
Tuesday,
Yep.
Yeah.
I have.
We have to have a,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, so I will make a motion that we do not pass this on to the selectmen as approved by the planning board.
Second, yeah.
further discussion? All in favor? Okay, that's one no. All right, now, next is the subdivision.
No village over.
No, it's just subdivision.
Oh.
Bottom of the page.
Yep.
Yeah, if I had a color printer, it would be bright yellow. Noted.
Do you guys have any questions on that before it goes to vote, or are you pretty straightforward with it?
I'm not sure.
I'm not understanding.
Do you
I'm not,
have questions?
I'm not sure what the difference is.
Right, what is the difference? What are we looking to change?
Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah.
I knew it, I can see it in your faces, yeah.
If you look at your findings of fact for a subdivision, it states this code right here that you have to be in compliance with it.
That's the state of Maine code.
State of Maine code, 30A MRSA subsection 4401 is nothing but subdivision information.
So you're looking to strike the town of Berwick information and put state of Maine?
Correct, because our subdivision regulations are not state level.
Okay.
So,
Is this more restrictive, less restrictive, or the same?
They're about the same, but other areas, the town can always go more restrictive than the state, but there are some folks that like to take and find out how the state equates with what we do here in Berwick. This way, we're in line with our definition, and there are a lot of times that I will go and pull this exact reg to see how Berwick is written as opposed to how the state is written. And if Berwick is more restrictive, then I have to go with Berwick. If we're less restrictive, I can't use Berwick, I have to go with the state.
So as it pertains to the subdivision regulation currently, just broad brushstroke, are we more restrictive, equal, or less restrictive?
You're pretty much a little more restrictive.
Okay.
And like I said, different areas, it's all broken down on the state, if you go out and take a look at it.
So by changing the verbiage from the town of Berwick to the state of Maine, it really doesn't change how we do business, is what I'm hearing you say, because we're gonna go with the more restrictive requirement anyway.
Anyways. But this way, instead of somebody calling me and saying, okay, Tammy, what's the state reg? It's right here in our definitions already for them to reference right away. Because if they're in our ordinance looking for something, they've got the information right there and they don't have to waste time because we're not open on Fridays. If they would have called me tomorrow and asked me what reg we go by, they'd have to wait till Tuesday for me to get back to them, if I could even get back to them on Tuesday.
But we're gonna go with the more restrictive. So are we creating more ambiguity to people who, because if we're saying, okay, we're gonna adopt the state regulations, but we have certain regulations within the town that are more restrictive, are we making the process more arduous for the applicant? That's my concern.
We have a subdivision regulation. This is state law. So if there was ever a question that came up, I'd always refer to the state law along with the regulation. The regulation gives everybody, well, there are 2, 3 groups in here tonight that are coming up for subdivision. They look at our regulations first, and then if there's a way around it because they want to do something, they'll go to the state reg to find out exactly how they can do it. So by having this also came down from SMPDC. When they requested that we change it, they would be the ones that we would refer to. If I can't answer the question, they would be the person I would also go to. So when it comes down from SMPDC, who are the land use experts appointed by the governor, they are a state entity. Came back, oh my goodness, years ago with the creation of them. There were 2 groups, Southern Maine, and then it's called something different up in the northern. So they're the ones that they found that we need to bring our definition in compliance with the state. So this is why I do it.
So should we adopt the state regulations in whole to alleviate, I feel for anybody who has to come in and apply if they're competing and we're like, well, we can, okay, the state says this, but the town says this, and we're gonna go with the more restrictive. I think for an applicant, that's extremely frustrating, and I would advocate for, and it's just an opinion,
Yeah,
we choose one or the other and go with it, because we're really putting a hardship on people who are trying to develop.
in the prior towns I've worked with, they all go with the state reg sitting in there because it gives the people the first opportunity to take and, because they're already in the ordinance looking. And if they find something they don't like, or they think they need to have changed or can go with through the state, they're already ready to go to the state reg to pull it. And they do bring it out. The other towns that I've worked in already have this definition, have this statement, C30A MRSA.
So
already
I'm
in their
confused,
definition.
and I apologize if I'm being slow here, but, so,
So what it is coming down to is, they don't know what the heck they're supposed to be even voting on. They don't know what either one says. So they don't know if they're agreeing to something that they shouldn't be agreeing to. I agree with what you're saying.
I don't wanna make
Now
it
that
more
I see it-
arduous for the applicant. That's my
No,
concern. If we
right.
have competing codes, if we're saying, okay, we're gonna change our verbiage, that we're gonna be in alignment with the state, and then in our next breath, which I think I heard you say, and I don't wanna misquote you, but you're like, we're gonna go with the more restrictive, that creates a level of ambiguity and frustration on the part of the applicant, and not only on the part of the applicant, but on the part of us, because every one of these is gonna come before us, and we have to sort through the mud to
Yeah,
make
no,
a decision, and
understood.
I just think we need to draw a line in the sand and say, we're either gonna stick with what we got, or we're gonna adopt the
Right.
state, and that's just
Let
my
me-
opinion.
Let
Hard
me
to do that
see.
without having it in front of you to know which one you should keep.
Right.
So,
Yep.
Um,
Can we shelf it?
yeah.
Well, Dean Williams is with SMPDC. Dean, are you available?
Yeah, I'm here now.
Could you offer assistance on, with what EJ wanted us to change under the subdivision definition?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I say this without knowing a lot of the history on this, because I am kind of new and I wasn't here when this was recommended, but I think what it is, I mean, where you really don't have a definition of a subdivision, and this is just in your definitions, and typically it makes sense to align yourself with the state and what your definition of a subdivision is. I'm not even quite sure if in your subdivision regulations, if you really define what a subdivision is, but I think when you're just looking at the definitions here, I think it makes sense to go with what the state has. Just like you would with every other definition here, you wouldn't want your definition of a manufactured house or a single-family dwelling to be different than what the state has. Does that help at all, or did I miss?
So would it be too much to ask, maybe we shelf this one, but in the interim, do some homework and do a comparison and contrast? I think that would help me a lot. Is what is the current state requirement if we adopt that in whole? And where are the differences between that and what we currently do as a town? And is it advantageous for us to do it, or are we making it more arduous for us?
So at this point, since it's so close, we don't have time. So if we table this, it just goes to next year. We have a whole year to discuss this. So if that's the way that it seems like we're going to have to do it, then
How does the rest of the board feel?
I have a question. Is our definition in our regulation of what a subdivision is different than what the state is?
That I
Or do
don't
we
know.
not have a definition?
well, right now our definition is just says see subdivision regulations of the town of Berwick, Maine.
Right, does anybody have that code book with them?
If I may add one other thing, when you're asking about how this works for people that are, people that are doing the subdivision, and especially an engineer that's hired to do the subdivision and do the design work, they probably work in other towns, and they probably in Maine, and they know the state rules, and the definition, so it probably makes more sense to, in that sense, it's probably easier to stick with. It gets convoluted when every town has a different definition, a different, it makes it more difficult on the actual engineers and the surveyors.
Sounds reasonable.
So our actions are to either adopt the state or shelve it. Am I understanding you
Yes.
correctly?
Correct.
Yep.
So,
I feel like I need more information.
so hold on a second.
No worries.
Before you go.
Yep.
It's the same.
It's the same. Okay.
So it says in our subdivision regulations, the division of tractor parcel of land into 3 or more lots with any 5-year period that begins September 23rd, 1971, blah, 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 blah. The definition applies whether the division accomplished by sale, lease, development, buildings, or otherwise. And the state starts the exact same way and it's laid out exactly the same. It's almost like somebody copied and pasted it and put it there. So I don't know if that helps you or hurts you, but
that is the only thing we're talking about is what you just explained.
it's just the subdivision definition,
Okay?
and I can show it to you if you want.
Do
Do you want me to show you?
reading
Okay.
is fundamental and I trust your professional judgment.
Yeah, I can show it to you,
But
but
if
yeah.
the
I just-
verbiage is the same, then let's move, if you're telling me it's the same, I say
looks-
we make a motion to approve adoption of the state requirement.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? All in favor? Okay.
Thank you for getting us through that.
Yes, thank you.
All right, so now is 11.2, Planning Board appointment.
Okay.
Oh, no, sorry. It's 4.1.b, Village Overlay District Expansion, sorry.
If I may.
Yep.
Chairman. So this is a recommendation, just a member of the Good Idea Club, you can do whatever you like. But if I were you and I was trying to get this through, I think a good place to start would be to find out who each of your abutters are, and I would send them a certified letter explaining what you would like to do. And because I've heard you say, hey, this guy's on board, this guy thinks it's a great idea, and that's great. But if you have it in writing, and you can come back to the board with, hey, all my abutters think this is a great idea, and these abutters have these concerns, it gives us a little bit more to go on, and then we're not gonna get into any type of conflict with the townspeople if we make that recommendation. And it's not within my purview to tell you to do that, I just think that gives you a lot of objective quality evidence to come back to the board and say, hey, you know what, all my abutters, thumbs up, and you have it in writing, and that alleviates any future legal issues that may come at you, with any of your abutters.
Okay,
just
quick
a
question.
recommendation.
Did the abutters get a letter for the public hearing? So they are,
Certified letter,
so
yes.
they are all aware
They got
of,
the certified
They did.
return
Yes.
receipt letter,
yep,
along with a picture of the area that's going to be potentially, or is being proposed to be zoned for the village overlay.
Yep.
And they were asked to either attend the meeting, email me, send me a letter, give me a phone call, whatever the case may be, and I got no negative input for it. It was also advertised in the newspaper
Yep.
that this was part of the ordinance changes,
Okay.
and I got nothing back from anybody.
Nothing
Outside of
positive
no-
or negative?
I got the positive back from the lady from Ohio that called me today.
Okay.
Okay.
And it's been a buzz from what I've heard on Facebook.
Yeah, yep. If you're gonna come say something, you gotta speak up on the mic.
The feedback you heard was
Okay.
positive? Okay.
They're very excited.
Rainy
about-
Lapierre, 74 School Street. To note on the unofficial Facebook page, last I saw, it was 160 comments and likes. And surprisingly, the only negative one was, I wish it was in Amato's, which is saying a lot if you go, if
Yeah.
you guys know anything about any unofficial Berwick, Portsmouth, whatever, there's usually a few people that are in there that are like, this, that, a lot of negativity. And this was 99.99% positive. So, congrats on that.
Okay, Dave?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but did we have a public hearing on this?
We just did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dave, they'll have to come back in front of the board if this gets approved, they'll have to go through the whole conditional use to even open the subway, if that's what the Mo's.
Yeah,
subway,
right.
If that's what you're wondering.
Right, this is
He's gonna have to
just for
go
the
If-
village
if
overlay
butters have been
expansion.
Notified
Just-
and
Yep.
are silent
Yeah.
in compliance,
Yep.
I would make a motion to approve.
I second it.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor? Okay,
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
thank you.
Sorry, calling the subway. Totally different, I promise.
All right, so moving on, 7.13 signs.
Let's let nobody else come to the planning board to want to like extend that zone out even more, Let's just,
Closing it down.
we're keeping it, yeah, I keep thinking we have limits here, but I mean, soon we're gonna be on my property and.
And then we'll be on mine.
Yeah.
Mike, that will never.
I'm pretty far away.
Dave's Pizza.
I was impressed with the presentation we saw when they came before the board with the sign ordinance. They clearly have done their homework.
Yep.
It looks very complete to me.
Yeah, I agree, very well thought out. And very much in keeping with the village feel that we're looking for, particularly with the edge community.
Right.
I don't want to make all the motions tonight, so.
I make a motion that we approve and pass on to the selectmen the signs ordinance.
I will second.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor? Okay,
Thank you.
moving on, 7.21, access to lots.
I feel we have to support our first responders, and if we have these apparatus that need to make the turns,
Different.
This is a different one.
Sorry.
This is
Sorry.
the private road.
Oh, that's right.
Yep.
That's right.
Adding homes. So,
So this is, for the tarring, the pavement, to move that from, 6 or more? Instead of what it's at, 2 right now, after 2?
After 2.
Okay.
so Jen,
I know, it's coming towards me, I'm just gonna go. Paul,
my question is on, you had mentioned that that we currently allow ADUs,
we do,
accessory dwelling units.
we do.
So, but
Accessory,
we're not gonna allow an accessory dwelling unit on its own property.
we can't.
Right, so that's only an attachment to an existing single-family property.
My point is that more and more people are trying to get their families to their area. You see a lot more of grandparents living next door to, kids and wanting to be more like,
Yeah.
close to home.
Right.
We want to bring those people close to home, and not everybody wants to be in an accessory dwelling unit. Accessory dwelling unit in our town, can't be more than 50% of the main living house. So if you have a 1,200 square foot house, grandma and grandpa can put a 600, square foot accessory dwelling on that might not be big enough to accommodate what they need, wheelchairs, whatever,
Right.
going forward. This is really about,
And do we allow detached ADUs?
we do.
Okay.
There's nothing that says they have to be attached.
Jen, why did they strike out the verbiage about drainage and culverts? That's a curiosity.
What page are you looking? Second?
The second page, yeah. Because that, to me, seems pretty important if you're gonna build a dirt road.
I'm not sure, actually. That's a
Okay.
question for Tammy,
Yep.
because that doesn't make sense. Go ahead.
Because if you take and look at what's being added, the information comes off your road construction information, and the only thing they're removing off of it, culverts are in the road
I
construction.
see it, yep.
Okay.
Pavement is the word that's being eliminated.
Okay.
It's the road construction that still has to remain in place. So it's so many inches of this, so many inches of this.
Okay.
The compaction rate has to still be there.
I just saw it struck and I did not read it there, so long as we're not eliminating that, I think the drainage is pretty important.
The town of Berwick is very adamant about keeping their culverts
Okay.
in place.
And
So that's
clean.
one thing. Yes, and clean.
Yeah, we would never get rid of them. I wasn't
Okay.
sure either, but
Okay.
that's, yeah.
Thank you for clarifying.
Any further questions for me? You guys good?
I think it makes sense, and I know there were some differing opinions with regard to pavement and whatnot, but the dirt road allows for more of a country, small-town feel, I think, and is more aesthetically, in certain parts of the town pleasing than a paved road, so.
Yeah, I agree, and also that we have some pretty strict regulations about what that dirt road has to be.
Right in front of you.
Yeah, so, I'd make a motion that, yep,
One more
Jerry.
question. Who's required to maintain those roads?
They're privately owned roads anyway, so whoever owns the right of way would be maintaining them, or there would be a road maintenance agreement between the homeowners on the road to, and they'd have to keep it.
But it doesn't come over to the town.
No,
The
No.
town is not accepting any new roads at this time.
yeah, usually you see PVT on the sign.
Right, I've seen that, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I was going
So-
by what you were saying for a minute. and it's like,
I'll make a motion that, we accept the, what do you call it?
Access to lots.
Access to lots verbiage as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor? Okay, thank you. Next, 11.2, Planning Board appointment. So this is just changing the 5 regular members to 7 members.
Is it a conflict of interest for us to vote on our own board? Should that go to the selectmen?
No, you definitely need to vote on
We
this
do.
one.
They need
Okay.
to see your vote.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I just,
And just so you know, the question was posed to the Board of Appeals at the same time, and they would love to be able to go to 7 members too, for just the same reasons, to give the applicant a better dispersal of knowledge and information with the person's background. But because we're having difficulty getting members to the Board of Appeals, they asked that we table it until they get a full board and then put it on in November if possible.
Dave?
I make a motion that we increase the size of the Berwick Planning Board to 7 regular members.
Okay,
second that.
all right, further discussion? All in favor? Okay. There's that. So now subdivision regulations.
What's your question, Phil? Go ahead.
I actually don't have one.
Oh, Oh,
Wow.
I thought you started one before.
I did, and I forgot what it was.
I think you were saying how great Chief Plant was for making this recommendation, so.
No, I
agree.
If we're spending more money on apparatus that, protect the town, I feel like we have to support our first responders and.
So let's just make it clear at home for people. Some of these guidelines and regulations were put in place in like 1993 for 2022 now. So trucks are bigger, gears bigger, more advanced.
Well, only so much bigger. The roads hasn't really changed the width, has it? Like the
No,
main road?
not
I mean,
really.
you're limited to the width anyways.
That's correct.
Okay.
I think it's more of a turnaround hammerhead.
Yeah, and if people are parked on the side of the road, it makes it a bottleneck and,
Yeah.
yeah.
Are
Okay.
these in alignment with national standards or any? We're not just randomly pulling these numbers.
These are real numbers.
Okay. No, but I understand. But is there a standard that we are adopting, or did we?
That's not a question I know the answer to.
Okay.
Tammy might, but probably Chief Plant would know better.
Okay.
But also, we talked also, I think last time, about turning radiuses and widths and that sort of thing. And I thought we were saying that also acceptable was 24 feet wide with 1 foot border of crushed stone on each side.
Mm-hmm.
Is that included in here?
Tammy, that would be the 26 feet.
That would equaling 26 feet, but 24 of which is actually paved with the balance of 2 feet on one each side as crushed stone.
But it has to be compacted and constructed like the paved portion.
Okay.
So that's the part that I found in talking with people, they didn't understand the construction side of it versus looking at just paved.
Mm-hmm.
To get it to be paved, you have to get the construction right before you can pave it. So,
Right.
and I think I'm explaining that right, right, engineers?
Yeah, I'd like
Sure.
Steve,
some information on that.
Steve Hay with Civil Works. So for that, typical roads are 20 feet, 22, 24, 26. Usually your road width is also usually anywhere from 6 inches to a foot to 2 feet beyond that. So your road base is created wider than your paved section. So if you're going to go for 24 feet of pavement, if you have 1 foot shoulders, that's standard and typical. 26, 28, the same type of thing. So your road base, your construction of that road is going to be the same width, whether it's gravel or paved.
Okay.
So, and then when you do pave it, you do bring your gravel up to match the pavement.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
I'll make a motion that we accept as written.
I'll second.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor? Okay, thank you.
Oh, no.
Next is Maine Uniform Buildings and Energy Codes up to date to 2018.
So in other areas, you mentioned other towns that have brought their standards in alignment with this. Does that create?
It's not
any-
about other towns. This is the state standard that we can't be less than, and right now the town of Berwick is less than.
So we have to be in compliance.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, that's
it's
no
not really a
brainer then.
choice, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Now, on a side note on that, the board has suggested that once that this 2018, if it is recommended to go to the Board of Selectmen, they may be able to put a caveat in so you don't have to take and do this again for the next increase by the state.
Right.
I have discussed that with James, and I think it would be a smart move, because that way it just goes automatically up. There's no voting or anything that's gonna
So in
deter
the
or
future,
slow
we would
down.
just stay in alignment with the state.
Correct.
And I think that's smart
Which
business.
really
Yeah, I
we
like
should be
that.
doing anyway.
Right.
We should already be on the 2018 code.
You had said something about the stretch code for the 2021.
Yeah, so I'll just put it on record saying that we have a email out to the building official from the state of Maine. We didn't hear back before this meeting, but we were hoping to. 2015 International Energy Conservation Code, we may be in line with the state and move it to the 2021 stretch code. I just want to give you guys a heads up on that. I don't know if how to really add it to the vote without having to come back, but it's going to be with whatever the state decides to do. With the 2015 code, they realize there's a few problems with it, so a lot of towns have jumped to the 2021. So I don't know if you guys want to vote to do that. I don't know what we can do, Tam.
Based on what Tammy said, if we vote on it with the caveat that we're just gonna fall in line with the state, it's a self-resolving issue, correct?
It would be.
And
So,
But we won't hear anything, of course, until June when the actual official vote takes place.
Correct.
The 2021 code is very restrictive, as you said.
it's very
We have
restrictive.
one project in Portland that
Yep.
cost them $1 million plus more because of the code.
So what would be the reasonings to not update it like that?
To go to the 2021 stretch.
You're right.
It's just if the town, so the state of Maine could only go to the 2015. So if the town wants to be just in line with the state, we would stay at the 2015. But there's a lot of, I can tell you as a building inspector, there's a lot of things in the 2015 code that is tough for builders to be able to accomplish. And that's why they kind of jumped to the 2021 for residential.
Okay.
There's so much information, I could explain it better, but we would be here all night.
Yeah, we're gonna be here all night anyway, so.
I know, but not for
Right, even
this.
further, yeah.
It's very
So-
expensive.
Okay.
Yep. So I don't know if you guys want to vote this. I don't know if we should add it in your vote or 2021. I don't know if you can do that, Tammy, but then we can update this to send to the select board. Maybe do that.
And because you've provided the information, the board can make the motion to do 2018 and 2021 stretch for the IUCC.
Is the 2021 stretch making it prohibitively difficult for developers?
It's actually a little better. It's a little easier for residential builders. Yeah, I just took a training on it, and there's a lot of things that make a lot more sense. I don't know what happened between the 2009 code and the 2015 code, but it's difficult for a lot of our residential builders to get the correct R value and
Okay.
some other stuff.
So it would make it residential less burdensome, but commercial, it would make it more restrictive?
It depends. It depends on what, but yes.
Okay.
It's
I guess
very-
that's what I was trying to figure
Yeah.
out,
It's
so,
not clear. I just went through the whole thing, and it's not,
okay.
it's not clear.
Yeah.
Depends on what you're building and when you're building it and how you're building it. And it's all based around the energy code.
And it depends, like, are you doing a new build, are you doing an existing building and you're updating it? Like, there's so much information that, again, we can't really spend all night going through. I'd be comfortable going either way. We're probably, as a town, gonna move over to the 2021 stretch. So, we just have to get that email back from the state.
Okay.
Will this be applied to new projects currently approved? Am I, no?
Once
You can never-
voted
You can
in.
never go back.
Yeah,
So,
What about the ed?
that's my bigger concern is
Well,
do
they
we drive
haven't-
their costs up as such if they have to meet these new guidelines.
well, so, this is not to do with planning board, this is for code enforcement, so any new applications that they bring in, they would have to meet those codes. After June.
Yeah.
If it gets voted in.
After June.
Okay.
After
Yeah.
So I would make a motion that the Maine Uniform Building and Energy Codes update goes to 2018 standards and recommend that when available, 2021 stretch is applied.
I will second that.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving along, we have findings of fact for site plan review, 20 Sullivan Street, tax map U004, lot 146, Great Falls Construction.
I have a question with number 10. I know we had talked about, and I'm unclear on the phasing, but I thought what we had discussed was the applicant would enter into an agreement with the town to delay development of phase 6 until 1 year after completion of phase 5 in order to assess the parking situation. It's a little ambiguous to me. I want to, so phase 5 is, that is all of the residential units or no?
No, that's
No, it's
the,
97.
All but 97.
yep.
I think they're 97 in phase 6.
So phase 6 does not include the proposed, or the current overflow parking, correct? Or the current, I mean, whatever, it doesn't.
Yeah,
Would-
the overflow parking area across on Wilson
Yeah,
could be utilized in phase 6 if they determine at the end of phase 5 that they need to create more parking.
so
That's
the
why,
way it's written, it says they have until 1 year after the completion of phase 5. I think in the spirit of what we had discussed, it was gonna be 1 year after the completion of phase 6. I could be mistaken. I thought that's what was discussed.
I thought it was phase 5. Because they were gonna use that as the piece, that would be the, phase 6 is the final piece for any type of changes that could potentially need to be
Yeah.
done to accommodate any,
That was my
any
understanding.
Okay.
Yep.
problems,
But
issues,
phase
concerns.
6 is adding how many residential units?
The 97.
97.
Yep.
So you're not really gonna appreciate the full need for parking until you have those 96 dwellings.
Well, it may go down with the 96 if they need to create more parking. This is the part that is negotiable,
I
is that
gotcha.
last phase.
Well,
I thought we were trying to just lock it in so that that parcel could not be developed for anything else, and it's left
Correct.
as a contingency. So if we're saying wait 1 year after phase 5, and they haven't even built phase 6 yet, are we shooting ourselves in the foot?
Because phase 6 is that wiggle room
Mm-hmm.
that they need. They, right now, they have no plan on developing the Wilson Street parking side. They'd like to have a commuter part of it,
Yep.
a private parking area to it. So this is where that one last phase will allow them that wiggle room, so that if they do need to create more parking, they will be able to do it, or if they need to cut down on whatever for that last phase.
Okay.
And
I
then-
might be, I'm willing to concede that I'm not understanding what you're saying, but in my opinion, I feel like the town would be better served waiting for 1 year after the completion of phase 6. With them agreeing, we're not gonna develop that lot until phase 6 is done, because how can you adequately assess how much parking you need if you haven't completed construction? That's my concern.
Okay.
well,
Julie and Dean?
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, did you hear what Phil has questions and concerns on?
I did, it was cutting in and out a little bit, but I think I got the gist of it. So I think that the intent was after phase 5, we would assess whether or not we needed parking, and that overflow lot, it would serve as additional parking for the site. So I think our understanding was as it's written, but, so I'm not sure,
I guess
Is there any-
my question is, and maybe I'm phrasing it wrong, is what good does it do to assess the need for parking when you haven't completed the entire construction? That's my question. So would we,
because if there's a significant parking issue after phase 5, then we'd have to change our plans for phase 6. I guess that was what I thought we discussed last.
that makes a little more sense. Okay.
yeah, my understanding was that when phase 5 is done and we see what the parking situation is, and if we still have 97, or you still have 97 units to build, and we've got an issue, then the parking needs to be addressed with phase 6.
Correct, yeah, that's as I understood it too.
All right.
Okay, I agree with that.
Can I ask a question? Is that all right?
Yeah, but you just have to go up to the podium.
What is to...
Just state your name.
Yeah, you gotta state your name,
Cyrus
sir.
Morgan, what is to stop Great Falls from developing the Wilson Street lot as it stands now.
This agreement that we're gonna vote on this evening.
But that doesn't state that they can't develop the Wilson Street lot, does it?
It absolutely does. It says the applicant enters into an agreement with the town to delay development of phase 6 until 1 year after the completion of 5. It does not.
But the Wilson Street lot is
It does
not phase 6.
specifically-
If they were to change anything, that would be a substantial change, and that is part of, they'd have to come back to us and discuss it.
We're not voting on a
Even those-
building that's gonna be there right now.
No, I know. I was just, when I had heard that, I was under the impression that they were not gonna do anything with the Wilson Street lot. So I was just curious.
Right.
I want to make sure they don't do something with the Wilson Street lot while we're still trying to figure out what's going on with phase 6.
Well, since the Wilson Street lot is not in any of the development plans, they would have to be back here.
Yep.
Getting approval from the planning board
To do
for the
anything with
Wilson
that.
Street lot.
Okay.
Correct.
Before they could do anything.
Okay, all right, great, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for bearing with me.
Okay.
That's why we're here, Bill. That's why we're all here.
So for actions on this, we're looking for a vote of completion.
I will make a motion to find the
Can I ask,
application.
I can ask one more question?
One more quick question, and
All right. Once again, it's parking. The numbers on the findings of fact, we're up to 265 residential units, 37 commercial units, and 297 parking spaces. On the sheet 2 where the proposed following waivers are, waiver number 3, 783I, parking spaces, 414 required and 286 provided. Those numbers are from the December 14th SMPDC letter that was provided in the last packet from Mr. Feldman. In that proposal, it lists 228 residential units and 31 total commercial units. And it has the same in his waivers recommendation. It lists the same number of parking spaces, 414 required and 297 provided for 228 apartments. And that hasn't been updated for the 265. And I'm just wondering what's the actual number that is now required? And how short are they going to be? And I understand it's all being phased, but I feel like all that information needs to be there.
Yep.
He is correct on the 297. That's what was given the last time in place of the
286,
I'm
Alright.
more concerned with the 414.
Right?
297.
That was not,
That wasn't
that
updated.
was not updated or gone over at the last meeting when we discussed it.
No, you talked on that number at all.
I have all my notes here from the last time.
Well, I guess this would be the point where we talk about the waivers, right?
Yeah, could you just, the vote for completion was last week, approval of the plan was at the last meeting. So today you're voting on the findings of fact. And
Oh,
it
okay.
sounds like we've got typos in here,
Yep.
and I can fix that if you list it as amended and tell me what you want me to change.
Okay. So we already voted on the completion and the approval of the plan. Okay.
I think the issue is at page 6, waiver number 3, and page 2.
Yep.
Also, number 3.
Yep.
On the waiver request.
297.
Page 1 also lists 286 parking spaces and should be 297.
Okay.
What page is that?
Second
Page
paragraph.
1.
So 1, 2, and 6.
all noted, so if somebody wants to make a motion.
So you penned a name to those, is what I understand. So what do they read now? I'm sorry.
On page 1, a total of 296 parking spaces are proposed within several parking lots. Drive-in. and
297.
parallel spaces- 297, that's what I wrote down, sorry. Parallel spaces along the 2 private roadways and covered parking to be integrated inside the building at the corner of Sullivan and Wilson Street. There's that sentence from the 3rd paragraph. And then waiver number 3 on page 2, 7.8.3.9, parking spaces, 414 required and 297 provided. And then you wrote
Can I ask another question?
Yeah, just real quick, come on up.
All right, so that 414 is what I'm actually questioning.
That we've already voted on, have we? The waivers, we've already accepted the waivers.
that would be in the minutes you just did.
I don't believe we did.
Because that number should be a lot higher now that there's 265 apartments as to when there was 228.
The motion at the last meeting was Paul Amatucci, motion to approve the site plan with conditions complete. With conditions complete. And the conditions were, Lee J read off all 9 of them. There were those conditions, those were the conditions that were done. And I thought I had it in.
Yeah, if you're on the back page, the condition.
Yeah, and then Mr. Feldman noted the actions that the board could take, approve with conditions, table until the next meeting to fine tune the conditions, poll for the third-party engineer. And then they're on the findings of fact. So I know we read them off and I just cut and pasted them. So those are all the conditions and the waivers. So you need to approve the waivers.
Okay.
And the conditions. You approve the plan with the conditions as being complete. So now you need to vote on the waivers and then the conditions and then the findings of that.
Okay. Waiver, just the condition.
So, just so I'm clear, the 297 number, that was agreed upon with the developer?
Yeah, the developer was the one that corrected it. They were
Okay.
able to take and figure out how to maneuver things and,
Okay.
yeah, Julie?
Can I just jump in real quick?
Yep.
The 286, so that was the 11 that we added on next to the L-shaped building. The difference between 286 and 297 are those 11 spots after the site walk that we added next to the existing building. And it was my understanding that the waivers have already been approved at a previous meeting, but and are in the finding of facts as acted upon.
We did a finding of fact for site plan review.
Yeah, but in the zoning ordinance, your land use ordinance, conditional uses and site plans fall under conditional uses. I checked that with you, Jay. Yeah, it's, it says that Paul did the motion to approve the site plan with conditions complete.
That was the one Lee J added about the
Number 10,
Number
yeah.
10, the 1 year.
Yeah.
So with those corrections, we're looking for a motion to approve, is that what we're?
No, we're just doing, if the conditions are already complete, then it's just the findings of fact we're at now.
It would be
Because we've
weird,
already approved.
it would be weird for a finding in fact to be in front of you and not have approved everything in here already. That's where
Right,
finding
right,
of
that's what
fact
I was
come
thinking
from.
too.
So those waivers had to have been approved at some point, if anybody has notes on that, but there's no way that it would be in front of you if it wasn't.
Right,
I'm sorry Lee J's not on, but
right.
If memory serves me correctly, Lee J drafted that last caveat, number 10, so that we could get this document in front of us for this meeting.
Yes,
That's
that's,
my memory.
yep.
And if everyone else is in agreement with that,
Yep.
I think we're looking for a vote to approve this document, correct?
As amended.
As amended.
Yep,
I believe you're right.
yep.
And I'm sorry I don't have anything but the last meeting minutes in front of me.
That's fine.
No, that's fine. I think we're all in agreement.
Yep.
Yeah, I would make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Moving along, findings of fact for conditional use, Tina Allen, AKA Enzo Benzo Specialty Donuts, tax map R71, lot 7A, 474 Portland Road.
I do have an email from Tina that if you have any questions, she's given me permission to answer on her behalf, but I did tell her I can't answer any questions on an Italian donut.
She's not here.
No.
We can't act on this. Really?
For the findings of fact?
Oh, findings.
Yeah, it's just for the findings of fact.
So that was for the small changes she needed to make, is that?
Yep.
Okay.
Hand wash sign in the
She has made those
bathroom,
changes?
Yep.
the covered trash in the bathroom, the auto closed door in the bathroom, and replace carpets and cleanable mats.
Right.
All done.
Yep. Okay.
He is open. He's open.
Yep.
And according to her today, she couldn't come tonight because she was so busy.
Yeah.
I've heard that, actually.
It's a
Yeah.
good problem to have.
Yeah. She's actually now in the coffee shop business across the street. I don't know if you guys saw that. Over here at
Oh, at the Hag.
Golden Building.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
Nice.
Wow.
she's selling the donuts now.
Good.
She's selling the donuts where?
So
Next to
At the
Debbie
coffee
Goats?
shop,
so
yeah.
she owns a
Right next to the
business in South
tattoo.
Berwick.
Oh, yeah, no, I know the owner of that place, okay.
Yeah, so, yeah, I guess the owner bought the donuts and sold them, I don't know,
Cool.
but yeah.
Cool.
So we're looking for a motion to,
Approve the findings of fact.
I will make a motion to approve findings of fact as complete.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor? All right. Thank you. Okay, next is findings of fact for conditional use expansion, Corner Point Brewing Company, 1 Sullivan Street, tax map U4, lot 8.
You'll notice in my letter, in the memo, and also in the documents provided, that they have applied to the state fire marshal per your request. And as you know, the state fire marshal cannot come out to do their final inspection until they are close to CO point. So they are here tonight in case you have any other questions. They are complete, because that was the last piece that you had asked them to do, is make sure that they had applied. So they have done that.
Okay.
That was our only outstanding issue.
Yeah, you wanted to make sure that they had applied.
So there's going to be 3 motions for this, or is it just all, like the motion for approval of the conditional use?
Yep, with the conditions, to accept the conditions, and the conditions are, include the waiver for the LID statement, parking plan, lighting, and landscaping. So accepted. That was the only thing I couldn't find in prior meetings, so I added it in there.
Okay.
And the conditions of approval are already right there.
Yep.
It's
So,
got the approved
so
waiver in
it's,
there.
yeah, it's the conditional, it's motion for approval of the conditional use expansion, then the accepted conditions of approval, and then the findings of fact.
Yep.
Okay.
For a motion, I make a motion to approve conditional use expansion for Corner Point Brewing Company.
I have a second.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor? Okay. Next is the conditions of approval.
I will make a motion to accept the conditions of approval. Nothing has changed.
I'll second that.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next is the findings of fact.
Make a motion that we approve the findings of fact.
I
Okay.
will second.
All right, further discussion? All in favor? All right, there's that. Moving right along. Site plan review, Lot 4, Industry Drive, tax map R72, Lot 12-4, Mike Sudak, Atar Engineering. Thank you. This is 3 Industry Drive, 4 Industry Drive.
It's lot 4, but the address is 3 Industry.
Oh, okay.
She's got it right.
Dean?
Oh, boy, it's hot in here.
Dean?
Yeah, it is.
Usually, it's quite chilly in here usually.
Yeah, probably don't have this many bodies usually
Yeah.
either.
Yeah.
Dean Williams, are you available?
Yeah, sorry, I'm here.
Okay, lot 4 on Industry Drive is up,
Yeah.
so Mike's getting ready to do his overview.
All right, thank you. For the record, Mike Sudak, Atar Engineering, here on behalf of Peter Paul, who's with me tonight. Overview. So this is a completeness hearing for site plan review application. This is Lot 4, part of the original Mick Construction subdivision, the far east end of town. And what we're proposing to do is construct a just over 5,000 square foot building, 5880. And the use is really going to be an extension of Peter's business here in Elliott. Listen to me, my business is in Elliott, Northern Pool and Spa. So what this facility proposes to do is really just be a storage facility for some of the vehicles and some of the trailers, pool construction equipment, appurtenances of that business. So really just a place to keep them locked up and keep them safe. There's going to be a solid screen fence in the rear of the property with an Knox box for gated access to maintain a perimeter around the building. Gravel parking lot, adequate parking spaces for the employees. This will be serviced by private on-site septic, and the HHE 200. I don't believe is in your packet, but it was given to the town earlier this week.
It is.
It is?
Got it in
Excellent.
time. Yep.
And on-site water. so this, like I said, this is part of the original Mc construction subdivision, so the heavy line that you see here, all of those lots had a maximum prescribed impervious envelope that was subject to the large site location development state permit. So that's the window we have to operate within. We're well underneath that. I think we're only taking up about half of the total that we could. And really, the only kicker to that SLOTA is just making sure that all of their findings and special conditions of approval are incorporated into our plan set. Stormwater's handled underneath that SLOTA, so we have specific number of basins, material, location that are all prescriptive from that permit. So just making sure we adhere to that. I think that does it for my overview. I can go through a couple of the comments from the meeting that Dean and Tammy and I had, if you want me to, or I can take questions, however you want me to handle it.
Why don't you take the questions first, and then
Sure.
that way, if anything else further needs to be added.
Is there anything you want to add, Peter? Good.
No, you're doing a good job.
Okay. Happy to accept questions then.
So this is just going to be a storage facility?
If you're gonna talk, you gotta speak on the mic, because it's sort of the people that are watching this at home.
Yeah, like I said, so I think one of the comments that was brought up was whether or not this would be classified as a maintenance facility, and really we want to move away from that notion. You know, there's not going to be an on-site mechanic. There's not going to be like the service vehicles for deliveries or maintenance of associated with the rest of the facility. They're not going to have like their oil change on this development or anything like that. It's really going to be just storage for the rest of his business. He just needs, you know, a place to make sure that nobody's going to get in and mess with him.
Sure.
Okay. So then the oil and water separators are not necessary if it's just for the storage and not maintenance.
The biggest comment that was brought up was whether or not an oil water separator was required within the building, kind of more along the lines of that maintenance facility that we're distancing ourselves from. But I have no problem with having the catch basins have kind of be made into oil water separators by having like a bolt-on snout or vented hood on the outfall. You know, the oil stays at the top, so you still have that separation. That's completely fine, and I think that's more in line with the spill prevention, control, and countermeasure plan from the original SLOTA. So
Okay.
we're going to be doing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't I recall something about the rock that was being dug up and something was going to be done with that?
Yeah, let me switch pages here real quick.
Jen, did you have something that you wanted to say before that? Okay.
I'm sorry, I missed what you said here. Okay. Is that all right? So the heavy hatch here, there was a pretty large material stockpile on the site that was identified by town staff early on in the process when we came before you guys for sketch a couple months ago. We added some notes just that guy was going to get removed prior to any pulling a permit or anything, and that's already been taken care of. There's a crusher that's been on site for the past month and a half or so, I would say. So all of that material is gone from the site, so I could take that line work off, but I just wanted to keep it on for consistency's sake.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jen?
So can you just clarify what the fencing material will be for this site?
I think I had originally proposed just chain link, but you know, we want to have a more permanent visual barrier for screening's sake. So, I mean, my vote would be timber stockade, if you're all right with that. Just solid timber, but solid in some matter. You're welcome to come up.
What we're gonna do is put the slats in between the chain link, you know, the black slats, so you can't see through it. I really don't wanna do wood, because then you gotta maintain that. I don't want anything to maintain out there.
That's a good idea because obviously these pictures are taken in another town, so no disrespect to them or anything, but some of these pictures would be a violation of our land use ordinance, so I just wanna keep that on the record for you. So, having something blocked while you put your pool, you know, these things behind a blocked fence is okay. But if
Right.
it was open like this, it would be a violation of our land use. I just
No,
wanted
I want it
put
to
that-
look good.
Perfect.
Yep.
Great. What a great use for that area, so.
Yep.
Thanks, Peter. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay.
I have one question. It says on your floater, I believe is where it listed it, they'd be taking your solid, transfer station, the solid waste disposal, they'd be going to South Berwick.
Yeah, I think I think I got this one, but you're welcome to come up. I believe the original SLOTA, I don't know how they negotiated bringing their solid waste to South Berwick, I guess proximity, but I believe it presented the option either to demonstrate the contract with South Berwick, Jesus, or demonstrate that we'll be using a private contracting hauler, and we intend to do the latter, so I can provide that contract. That's no problem.
Okay.
I can answer that question on the floater and how they determine it. Maine DEP takes in contact when they do their SLOTA study. Found this out today. Sometimes they will determine who you will be taking your solid waste to.
State does, how about that?
I found that very odd, but,
Yeah, it's the first I've heard of it.
you know, that's something that, because I asked somebody else that today that came in, and they said the same thing, that the state is the one that determined why they would take it to Rochester. Completely out of state, but
Wow.
that's where they had to take theirs. So, and I don't know
That
how
one
they
sounds,
determine it. I
yeah,
don't
that
know
one
what
sounds even
process.
wilder, if the state
Yeah.
determined that they don't want it in their state.
Yeah,
Sounds great to me.
Yeah.
so I just,
Okay.
is there a chance that when this gets approved, to have all of the general notes on one page?
Yes.
Because right now, I
Yeah.
don't wanna have to make you spend more money recording, especially documents of this size.
Right.
But if you can get all the general notes on one page and be
Yep.
inclusive, it will help anybody that might be coming in looking to purchase other property, do other subdivisions, make
Yep.
changes to the properties.
Yeah.
That way,
Absolutely. It was a recommendation on Dean's memo,
Yeah.
so thank you for that. Yeah, it's a 30 scale drawing. I got plenty of space on sheet one. I can make that happen.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Dean, do you have anything else to add on this?
No, I think everything's been covered.
Okay.
Thank you, Dean.
All right. And then Tammy, what are our actions on this?
The application should be accepted for the plans, after the plans are signed and dated, and I got those, you have those in your packet. They were sitting on the very top. They came in late this afternoon, and I was able to get them copied and folded to put in your application. It's just the plans. No, I think I put it with Lee J's memo, Dean's memo. Yep,
Okay.
those are them. They were all separate. Yep, I didn't staple them, I just folded them,
Thank you.
so.
Okay.
Yep. So I wanted you to see that they are signed. We were hoping it wasn't gonna be on the holiday, because then it would have been the next meeting before they could have come back. But they've got them now, so,
So we can accept the plans as submitted?
as complete.
Okay.
Dean, do you have any other comment? I'm overstepping.
He said no last time,
No?
so
Okay.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I can't hear Tammy very well, but yeah, I don't have any other comments.
Okay.
Sorry, Dean. I'll holler.
So we're looking for a motion to find the application complete?
I would, I don't think it's application complete, I think it's, that the the plans are acceptable as submitted. Is that correct?
I think it needs to be I believe it needs to be complete before you can schedule the public hearing, which
Yeah.
would be.
Yeah,
Application's complete.
yeah, application
Let's do that,
completeness.
then I'll amend that to finding the application complete.
And I'll second that.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. And now, should we do a site walk if there's are we doing a site walk public hearing on this?
Do you want to do a site walk on it? I mean, that's up to the board for
Yep.
a site walk.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
something that
Yeah,
can
I
be
do.
waived?
Okay. Yep. Yeah, let's do that. First meeting,
March 3rd.
March 3rd.
So 4 o'clock? Is that too early? I know that we don't set the clocks ahead yet.
Not until, isn't it mid-March?
Yeah, so, I mean, at 4
4
o'clock, gives us an hour and a half.
Does that work with you guys?
Building's already staked, so. whatever
Okay,
you
so
guys-
4 o'clock on the 3rd.
Now, wait a minute, if it snows, we may need to put extensions on the markers.
Yeah, if they get blown out, we'll put them back up.
Okay,
4 o'clock, you said?
yep.
Okay. Awesome, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm next again, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Right?
Okay, next is site plan review, 259 School Street Solar LLC, tax map R49, lot 3.
Me again.
Okay.
Okay, get myself situated here.
So, this has changed several times now. And the one question I have is, at the beginning of it, the road was going to be coming off of School Street. Then it changed to Heritage Drive because of the subdivision. But now you guys aren't subdividing it, so what's the reasoning to keep it off of Heritage and not off of School Street if the utilities are still coming off of School Street?
Yeah, no problem. For formality's sake, for the record, Mike Sudak, Attar Engineering, here on behalf of NH Solar Garden. I've got Andrew Keller here with me on Zoom tonight. And yeah, project overview, because this one's been kicking around for a little while, and to your point, Mr. Chair, it's iterated a few times. So way back when, the first configuration you were referencing was Sketch, which I believe was back in like May of last year. That was back when we were allowed a max of a 5 megawatt project, but neither here nor there. The state regulations have changed. Now we're to a max of 2 megawatts. But we proposed the original entrance coming in off of School Street prior to engaging the DOT about the project and the parcel and the entrance permit that we would eventually have to obtain. And in conversations with them, I spoke with Anthony Fontaine from Region 1, who actually is no longer there, but they ruled that since this is a dual frontage lot, both School Street and Heritage Drive, that it would be borderline impossible for us to get an entrance on a state road when we have frontage on something that isn't a state road.
Okay.
So that entrance wasn't changed due to the subdivision, but it kind of
It happened at the same time.
yeah, it's one that
Yeah.
spawned the other.
Yeah.
So our gravel access drive is still proposed to come in from Heritage Drive. However, and the second page shows this, or the third page, the grading and utility plan. Our underground utility or our electric extension has to come from three-phase power, which exists on School Street, not on Heritage. And just because that's a really nice field and we want to keep it that way, we're proposing to extend underground from School Street up to basically where this bend in the gravel drive is. So there's a pole right here on the corner, so underground there, and then beneath the road rest of the way. So hope that answers your question. And I think I can go to a different sheet, but let's see. Oop.
And you also have the sign plans, they were added to your packet late this afternoon.
Yeah.
They should be towards the top of it.
That speaks to it. So I can give a little bit more of an overview if the board would like. That kind of handle a little bit of it. So yeah, so way back when we were at Sketch, this was a max 5 megawatt parcel. And I'll switch back here for the sake of it. State regulations changed, and now we're at a max of 2 megawatts. So that's going to be accomplished by about 200 tables of ground-mounted single-axle tracker panels, so rows oriented north to south, and they follow the sun throughout the day. The, I guess, configuration of the array, the rows will be spaced 15 feet from one another, and then there'll be a 15-foot perimeter offset from the array where there'll be perimeter fencing, which is 7 foot high, chain link fence, which is raised 6 inches off the ground to allow for wildlife navigation underneath for small animals. And then outside the perimeter fencing, we have a variable width shade management area. It'll be greater to the south of the development because that's the exposure that we want to get for how north we are. And it'll be very minimal to the north and in some places, depending on pitch, to the east and west. So we have very little wetland impacts, I believe, with the 2 in the back that the original plan set said was about 700 square feet, and then these 2 up front that Tammy called me on. Thank you, Tammy. I've added in, which is about 1,600. So we're at, what's that, 2,300. So we're beneath the NERPA Tier 1 exemption threshold. And then we have a significant vernal pool on site. We'll have to get a NERPA permit by rule for activities within that 250-foot setback. There's a calculation on the sheet to show we're well within compliance for that. And then a stormwater management law permit for treatment and attenuation. I think that's all I've got for overview. Andrew, if you want to add anything, you're welcome to, but I'd be happy to answer questions.
No, I think you covered everything, Mike. I'll stand prepared if there's any more solar-specific questions that the board might have.
I got a question. Sorry. What we see, vehicle access stops just when it gets to the array. There's no vehicle access down through.
There is. So the gravel itself stops right there. So we have a gravel access drive and a hammerhead turnaround. And there'll be a Knox box right there for access for emergency responders into the gated perimeter. And the array is sited such that it'll be a meadowed area. So let me back up a little bit. Everything within the perimeter fence will be cleared, stumped, and grubbed. So it'll be a meadowed surface that will still be able to be accessed by maintenance personnel. And the frequency of that is 1 to 2 times a year, just for maintaining the meadowed area as well as servicing the panels or the transformer, inverter, what have you. So the gravel ends there, or the engineered prepared surface ends where the line work ends, but there will be navigation throughout. That's why the aisles are maintained the way they are.
It says it's 15 feet from the edge of the panels to the fence.
That's you.
Yes.
15-foot
Yep.
clearance.
Yep.
Is that enough for?
I missed what you said. I was sneezing. I'm sorry.
No.
Can you ask it again?
I'm worried about access.
Oh.
You got plenty of room.
Access here to the gate, then to get in through here from the edge of the panel to the fence is 15 feet. They had to get down here for something. I don't know. On some of the other solar farms we've seen, there was some access where they could drive.
So I asked a question out, not about this, but about solar fields. And one thing is if something bad does happen, most of the time they let them burn.
Mm-hmm.
So if something bad did happen, my only thing saying that is what's to prevent the field now from said burning and going towards like other residences.
You want to take that one, Andrew?
Sure. Our experience with that is just similar to any other brush fire that might take place, or, fire that starts in the woods. Again, we're trying to provide as much access to as close to the array and the area inside the footprint of the array as Mike said, a meadowed area. So you're correct in stating that if the panels were caught on fire, God forbid, let them burn. And the fire department's job would be not to try to fight the fire, from the
There'd be
array.
containment, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so no different than any other wooded lot or any other type of meadowed facility. Again, we're trying to give them as much access as close to the array as possible, as you can see by the plan set here. And that's typically how it's handled.
Okay.
Thank you.
One last thing, one thing I want to say too is the 15-foot setback from the panels is per the National Electric Code. So that's a requirement per code. So that's why that is defined that way as well, just so the board understands.
Right, but that's a minimum setback, right? You could actually have more than 15 feet.
That's kind of where I was going. If you wanted to go as much, you could drive.
Yeah.
Just because our fire
Yes, that is
department-
correct. That is a minimum requirement.
Yeah.
Just because our fire department wouldn't fight that fire doesn't mean they don't need access to get out there. If
Right.
a worker,
Right.
something happened to one of the workers that we're maintaining, so there needs to be some sort of access road out there that they can get life safety vehicles around and down there.
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly what Chief Plant would want. That's a question that can go to him, and it should go to him.
Okay.
It's his guys and his,
Yep.
guys and girls and his medical personnel that would be down there. Other than that, something like this type of fire, I don't know how much you guys know about solar farms or solar arrays, but there's usually a box, shut off. There's like special gloves and everything you have to wear to pull that lever to shut it off. You have to be trained to do it. So like Chief Plant had to, we have another solar array in town, and Chief Plant had to be knowledgeable about where that was and where the keys were for the box, etc. So just a heads up on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
And we've had a few solar projects come before us, and I'm getting them mixed up, but are we, or is it later in the plan, we talked about the decommissioning plan and such, is that not part of this
We've
discussion?
had this discussion, but this has changed a few times,
Okay.
so.
So in the decommissioning plan, did we discuss a surety bond and get agreement on that for decommissioning?
Yeah, so and Andrew, you're welcome to jump in here too.
Yeah, want me to jump in on that, Mike?
Sure, you can go first.
Yeah, so, I think the most important thing for the board to understand, if you haven't seen this yet, is that the state just put in place a statewide decommissioning plan that these solar projects have to follow. So it allows, I don't want to say it takes the guessing out of this board to try to understand and figure that out. They've kind of set a standard that we all have to follow now. And Mike, I'm not sure if we include that in the packet. We typically include that in our public hearing packet. And we put together kind of like that information that's helpful for the public as well as the board, links to what it is, so we typically would follow that. We would prefer not to have one for the town and one for the state, if the board is okay with that. And again, that's a new process. We're all learning about it right now, but it's a requirement to have it in place before the start of construction. And there is the different types of surety that's required. But again, within our kind of typical public hearing packet, we have information about, what does the decommissioning plan look like? What are the costs associated with that process? And what is our typical operations and maintenance kind of plan and schedule? So those would be typically handouts and information in the public hearing packet.
Okay.
Another good question about the plan that I'm not sure anyone else has noticed, but there'll be like, how do I want to ask this so it doesn't come out mean?
Yep.
Amy, I'm gonna have you ask this question.
You have to cross one of the water bodies, on the plan, you have a
The wetlands.
stream, that wetland you have to cross.
So, board, Mr. Chair, if I may
Yeah.
show you
Yep.
out a couple of things on this plan that doesn't really make clear sense.
Right.
So they're
How do you
crossing the
find out?
wetlands to get to the back here.
Yep.
They're also putting their fencing and their property boundaries crossing into the wetland, like.
Say that part again?
So, how are you crossing the wetland here? Like, you're putting an access road in here, right?
Yeah.
How are you gonna cross the wetland? Like, what's the plan for that?
We're going to have to negotiate a crossing with the Army Corps pursuant to the wetland impact, so there'll be likely a culvert
Right,
there.
and when you put the barrier up, that goes around this, right? 'Cause this is the barrier?
That's the property line.
Okay, okay,
Barriers
good.
around the.
It's
Okay,
just
okay.
around the
I was like,
array.
wait a minute,
Okay.
that
Yeah.
makes sense, but okay, never mind.
The scale of this drawing is a little, the geometry of the parcel kind of leaves me lacking.
So you guys would be crossing the wetland to get,
Yeah, so the only barrier, I guess, that we would be providing would be that 15-foot perimeter fence.
around just the panels themselves.
Yes, yep. And then we'd have shade management clearing beyond that, but that's just clearing, no stumping, no grubbing. It's just to be maintained for shade management.
Okay.
On your grading and utility plan,
Yep.
there's arrows, I'm just trying to make sense, within the solar field, what do those arrows represent?
Direction of stormwater drainage.
I see, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, just justification for, so, not only pursuant to the stormwater permit, but just for the sake of trying to keep the site as natural as possible. We don't want to do wholesale grading, they're sited in such a way that we avoid steep slopes, we avoid, there's no resource protection areas or areas of MNAP concern on this property, but, yeah, so all the stormwater BMPs are just designed on the toe of slope, and they try to catch as much of the development upgrade as possible. Yeah.
Going back to my question, what, wouldn't it make more sense to run the fence across, leave that whole area open in the middle like they've done on the other solar farms, and making it real restrictive right up?
Well, I'm not gonna speak for a chief plan on this, but I'm gonna tell you that he's not gonna like that plan, so.
Okay.
I'll estimate that to him and see what he says, but it's just, that's really restrictive if they need to get a life safety vehicle out there. And then I thought the fence was around the perimeter, my bad. That's more restrictive than I would've. But, again, I'm not gonna speak for him, I'll see what he says.
Also, just pulling up experience from pursuing a development like this in a different town, the fence line as you're proposed probably wouldn't go over terribly well with the town's conservation commission, just from the wildlife kind of segregating that it may create. You're potentially blocking off a larger swath of land.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, remember, this came up before in the 236 one, do you remember?
Yes, yeah.
So conditional approval with concurrence with the fire chief?
For access,
Is that
accessibility.
Is that an action we should go down?
Yeah, I mean, I would want Chief Plant to be
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
able to access every single area around that.
Absolutely.
So, back to my quick question with the road. It would, if it crosses the two wetland impacts right there, but the power doesn't go that way, it goes to School Street.
Yep.
Isn't that a shorter distance to go to School Street than it would be to go through Heritage and go through those two wetlands?
It absolutely would be, but I've spoken to a couple of different people at the DOT, and the impression they've given me is that that would be an untenable option, just
Okay.
because of the dual frontage nature of the lot. Heritage is there, we have 1,000 feet to utilize, and I've minimized the wetland impacts to get
Right,
across
right.
it.
No, I understand that,
Yeah.
but you'd be
I would absolutely
you would
love
be
to.
impacting a lot less
Yes.
of the wetlands.
Yeah.
Like you would basically be just barely
Yeah,
impacting
it would just be the
wetlands.
700 in the back as opposed to this 1,600.
Right.
So I don't want to downplay what you're saying. So in the grand scheme of things, we're still at 2,300. That's half of
Right, well,
the DEP's.
I guess what I'm saying is
exemption
if you're already gonna be putting in digging the ground for the lines, what's the extra just to relocate that to go through there?
being unable to get the entrance permit for it.
And that's it? Well, no,
I mean, that's,
that's.
yeah, that.
So is the state telling you they will not give you a permit, or is it just administratively arduous? What is the holdup?
I haven't officially filed and been declined, but
Okay.
I've had enough conversations with Anthony Fontaine, who's no longer there, and then his replacement in District 1, Region 1, that it would not happen. I can
Is that
certainly.
based on policy or personality? So if it is less impactful to the wetlands.
Majorly, like that's.
Hugely, what is the state's hang up as far as, and I'm just wondering if it's a matter of expediency or if it is a matter of policy, what is the hold up for the state?
My understanding would just be policy on minimizing the entrances on the corridors they maintain. I can certainly endeavor to do that, but, you know, I don't want to diminish from the product that I have before you right now. So it's certainly something I can endeavor to maybe, you know, we're at completeness again for this, but as part of the package that gets brought before you, further along in the approvals process, just further correspondence with the DOT about whether or not that could live, and if it can, then we go that way, because I want to avoid them too.
Right. I mean, that's a substantial change if.
Especially in the construction phase where you're bringing heavy equipment in, you know, big trucks and whatnot, if you can avoid going over the wetlands, it seems like a no-brainer, but I just.
Yeah, I understand the concern, yeah. I can provide that correspondence with them, and I'll re-engage them and make sure that's still the case.
Have you engaged the Army Corps at all with regard to wetland impact with the current plan? And what
Yes.
they...
Yep, so it's hard to see it there from the existing contours, but this one particularly, we're going to have a crossing for, same with the two in the back. So I've had my pre-app with the state, and I've engaged the Army Corps on all of those. They're aware, because this crossing's been where we've been coming in for a while now. And yeah, I mean, we have survey data, we have the bank full width, so we know what crossing size we're going to have to negotiate if that's where we end up in finality going. Yeah.
Jen?
I have two questions.
Okay.
The first one's kind of difficult, okay? So, who is going to, so Heritage is a public road in our town. Who is going to maintain Heritage with any kind of, you know, heavy equipment that travels over Heritage? You know, the state doesn't want to take it on because they don't want to deal with the outcome of the road after all this equipment is being crossed over. So from a town standpoint, who's gonna take care of that when it's done?
That is a privately owned, maintained road, is that what I'm hearing you say?
Heritage
Yeah.
is a public road.
Yeah, it's a town adopted road. Yeah.
Recently
So the state,
accepted.
what he's saying is the state would be a no, because they
Right.
don't want to maintain the damage that comes from something like this.
Right.
So the town isn't going to want to pay for the damage either. So is there going to be a maintenance agreement for the town road? That's my question.
I would say
Can I ask
no.
a que- I'm just trying to get some clarification on that question, if I might.
Yeah.
Is the question related to during construction or after construction? Just so maybe I can
Both.
speak to that.
Yeah.
Well, so we have a issue going on with a town road right now for same kind of project. The project's not in our town, but they cross our town road to go across, and we're having a heck of a time getting a maintenance agreement after the fact to try to figure out who can fix the road.
Yeah, if I can speak to the after first, the type of vehicle that would travel up Heritage and onto the gravel road would only be a non-CDL, like pickup truck or a tradesman's van, because again, the maintenance of these projects are as Mike said, a couple times a year to have the grass mowed down. So the same type of equipment that travels Heritage Drive, if people up on Heritage Drive have a third party do their lawn maintenance or their fertilizing or delivering oil or propane, the maintenance onto Heritage and then turning onto this access will be probably less than that. Again, I don't know that neighborhood to know if a lot of people have oil or propane or, landscapers coming to their lawn there, but it would only be 2 to 3 times a year for a typical pickup truck, let's say. Our experience with our other projects in other towns is during construction, there's, some type of a performance guarantee that's required as a condition of the approval, that if there's any damage done to the road, obviously it's the responsibility of us to fix or repair that. But I don't want it to sound like there's gonna be very heavy trucks coming through up Heritage Drive and onto our access road after construction, because it's gonna be probably less than what goes up to the neighborhood.
Right,
No,
but during construction would be,
Definitely will be.
yeah.
And then I thought solar arrays, I could be wrong, but I thought our standard for solar arrays where the grass was planted, the type of grass that was planted was non-mowable, and it never really grew. Am I wrong on that?
Most of them are set twice a year, usually.
Yeah, I think what you're referring to is maybe a pollinator mix, which again isn't unlike.
That was the last one that went through. They had a different fencing and then they grew, they need that was.
I thought it was a standard, I'm sorry.
Nope, that's not a standard, because other people could spray pesticides on it, and that was a whole thing
I
that
can say
we.
the town's not gonna back down on the road maintenance agreement on that, because we are in,
Yeah.
we've seen it, we don't wanna do it again.
Well, it's a big concern.
Sure is.
Yep. I mean, it's a lot of heavy construction equipment to move stuff, and
So, Mr. Chair, a few things we've discussed, and maybe we look at these as conditions. Once again, just a recommendation. Conference and input from the fire chief. More detail on why the state road access is a no-go. And I'm.
well, just as a possibility.
As a possibility
Yep.
versus if you don't go that route, entering into a maintenance agreement with the town to help maintain that road during
Yep.
construction.
Absolutely.
I have not had eyes on the main regulations yet for solar. I think that's something, I don't know if we have that or if we can get that. But
I can check on it.
the biggest thing in my mind, I want to live and die in this town is
So the commissioning.
the decommissioning plan. I would like more detail that spells out what's your decommissioning plan
Yep.
and surety bond and projected future dollars for the lifespan of the facility.
Yeah, that's a very standard
Just
ask.
as a follow-up to that surety bond thing, what's the matrix that we're gonna use to determine what the surety bond is? Is it, the output, the income, or the actual costs of decommissioning and carting away?
And future dollars.
Right, and I think one thing which I think right now is a given, because we can't do it here, is that I do want something in there that says that in no way will these panels ever be discarded or dumped in the town of Berwick.
As part of the decommissioning plan.
As part of it, yeah.
Could you say that last part? I didn't catch the last part. Was it
Yeah,
about?
I don't want the used and discarded panels as a result of decommissioning or as a result of them just not functioning, be left in Berwick. They need to be carted off somewhere, and I know that right now there's a Massachusetts site that takes discarded panels and either reconditions them or gets rid of them, but we do not want them in Berwick after they're dead.
I understand, yeah, and again, part of our packet too, we do provide some information about the state of the recycling of solar panels, so the board understands. Again, this is an emerging market in our industry in the last 4 or 5 years, mostly due to like the Hurricane Marias of the world in Puerto Rico that had major damage. And then what do you do with these panels? And to your concern, that's why it's taking place. And what we've seen in the paperwork and information we'll share with the board and the public is what this looks like. What is the recycling plan? There is a typical scrapping of the important components to the panels that have value somewhere in the value chain for recycling, and then the parts of the panels that need to be disposed of, like electronic disposal, is handled in that fashion. So it's not a new process, it's just more about the recycling facilities that know how to carefully take them off-site and recycle them accordingly, and then dispose of the parts, that can't be recycled, per federal law. So we have some information we can share with the board, along with that other packet of information I spoke of earlier. But we understand your concern, and we can definitely address that with some of the information we'll share at the public hearing.
What I'm hearing everyone say on this board right now is really Berwick should write a solar array ordinance.
Yes.
I agree.
We'll get that started for November.
Foreclose the manage too.
Volunteer to be an assistant.
Paul and I will write it.
All right. Tammy, do you have anything to add?
No, in our conversation we had the other day with all parties involved, we had a really good conversation on that.
Okay.
Everybody was very agreeable, and when I sent over the recommendations, when he sent us that one set, we had a couple of more recommendations. He addressed them, he got them right back to me, hence that's what you've got sitting in front of you with those recommendations that were made by Dean and I. So they've been very agreeable to make sure that you are happy with what you're looking at.
Thank you, Tammy.
Yeah, thanks, Tammy. We appreciate that time. That was just for the board's sake. Tammy and Dean really jumped on it quickly for us, and we're trying to get back in front of you folks so we can keep the project moving forward. So again, we really appreciate Tammy's effort and Dean's effort to really get on this right away. So as the applicant, I really appreciate that extra time spent on it.
Yep. Okay. And then Dean, do you have anything else to add?
Well, I'll second the, it sounds like you guys might need to work on a solar ordinance. And then, also, as far as Andrew and Mike, if you guys are looking at how to approach the DOT and get more information on getting an access or a curb cut on a state route, I've had a lot of experience with that in New Hampshire, where I came from. And I know things are different here. I know with the region and everything, it definitely would be different. So I would be willing to at least be looped in and give my perspective on all that if you guys are looking into that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll CC you in tomorrow, Dean. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. So our actions tonight.
With all the caveats you've got, do you want to find it complete based upon?
With those conditions?
With those conditions, and then once those conditions are satisfied, you can then do site walk, public hearing, ultimately find it complete. I don't know what you're looking at for timing on this. I don't know how long it will take them to get all of this prepared.
Didn't we do an initial sidewalk months ago?
I don't believe
No.
so.
No.
That was the other solar project.
Oh, that.
Yeah.
So this will be my first solar project then?
Yep.
Site walk.
So yeah, I think what we came up with 3 hard conditions: the conference with the fire chief, his input, state road access versus a maintenance agreement, and then more detail on the decom plan and surety bond and future dollars, what that looks like,
And disposal.
and disposal.
Okay.
So there are 4 of them?
Correct.
I missed number 3.
Well, 2, so fire chief, and then the one was a versus the state road access
Yep.
versus maintenance agreement for the town maintained road.
Yep.
Pros
The
and
next
cons
one.
there, and then decommissioning, surety bond, and projected future dollars.
And a statement on disposal looped into the decommissioning
Not in
plan.
Berwick.
Yeah, I know in the past when we've done these, we've set a surety bond. This was prior to the state coming up with their guidelines, but we had set a number for that surety bond with a lookup every 5 years to make sure that it was good enough and accurate.
Yeah.
So
Future
it'll
knowledge.
be interesting to see what the state guidelines are.
Sure. That sounds good to me.
And I think our homework is if we can get a copy of those state regulations. I've not had eyes on them and
Yes,
how
I
much.
haven't either.
Yeah, we've got a lot of solar stuff. We probably need to get smart on that.
And I'll take and get that. If I can find it before the next meeting, I'll send you some homework.
Okay.
Maybe next
We'll have all
time-
that together and be in our packet for you.
Okay.
We'll do the work for you, don't worry.
Next meeting might be in a few minutes.
So do we have a motion or somebody making the motion?
I'll make a
Bill?
motion to approve with the conditions that we have set forth.
I'll second it.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a site walk and public hearing on the first meeting. Is this gonna be pushed to the second meeting for the site walk and public hearing?
Well, the sidewalk is all you have scheduled right now for March 3rd,
Okay, yeah,
okay? They're a different project, so I don't know if you want to do them all in one meeting, if you can get everything back to me in time. That, I think, is what's going to hinge when we can do this.
okay,
So you could make a motion that, depending on when they can get me the information, we go out and have the public hearing, we go out, do the site walk. The public hearing is the only thing that might be a week later, because I have to do a 10-day notice in the paper.
For the record, I think I can maintain the same window if these are the items that I have to get to Tammy, so.
okay. So you'd like to have it on the 3rd is?
That, I believe I can hit that with no hiccups, yes.
Okay,
The
are I'd like to have the site walk before the public hearing.
In case you have additional.
Well, just in case anyone has any more concerns or questions, that we'd be able to do the site walk first and then
Is the
have,
site already staked out to show where the roads are gonna be and rough?
It's
roughly?
not, but
It's
that's
not.
2 weeks. I'll
Okay.
do it myself
Just,
if I
I mean,
need
there's
to.
no
Okay.
point in doing a site walk if
Yep.
there's nothing to see and we're just looking at a field.
No,
So-
we're gonna
Right.
be out there, doing, the beginnings of an Alta. So we can, do that while we're there.
Okay.
okay,
Okay, so with wanting them on separate nights, the sidewalk will be the first one in case there are other questions. So the second meeting in March, I'll get the paperwork all done for the public hearing and get it going. Is that what you want to do?
well, the site walk, we're gonna have to schedule, either right after or on another day, possibly a Saturday, to take a look at it. I mean, what do you guys
We can do
think?
5 PM.
Do it at 5? Because, I mean, where's the other one is just downtown, right?
Right.
This site walk is probably gonna be a little more intensive
I
though,
was-
when you look at the sheer acreage.
Right.
Yeah.
The access point from Heritage Drive and.
It's gonna be a lot of
bring your muck
walking.
Boots and,
I was just
pack
gonna
a
say,
lunch, cause it's
the-
gonna be a long walk.
The one previously scheduled is 2 acres of flat nothing. So
Right,
it'll take
right.
about 5
Okay.
minutes.
Can I zoom that one?
I mean, it's up to the board. We could either do it right after that one, or we could choose to do it on a Saturday morning.
I'm finally doing it at 5 PM because that gives us an hour and a half to get back here.
Well, an hour hour-ish. I like to be here a little early, just
Right,
in
but
case.
I
so-
mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
6:30,
Yep, okay. Anyone else? Thoughts? Jerry? Does that 5 sound good? And Paul and Roy and Phil?
Well, the first one, I kind of like this idea a little better, if you do this one at 4:30, because it's gonna be such a big area to see. If we wait until 5, we might make it till 5:30 before we're all in the dark.
And that's gonna cut the other one short.
Well, the other one's not a big,
You have the applicant here if you want to move the other one. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they're not too, yeah.
4 and 5.
4 and 5, yeah.
4 and 5?
Yeah,
Okay.
let's do 4 and 5 for the 3rd.
Bring your flashlight.
Snowmobile optional.
Okay, so for the public hearing, you want them both on the 17th? Is that what you're telling me, because you want it a couple weeks, a meeting in between?
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
If I don't write it down, guys,
No, this is, yep.
it could get missed, so. And everybody wear green on the 17th? Which I don't remember. Yeah, I know, well, I didn't get the memo, but, I know, it's St. Patrick's Day, yeah. Okay. So you'll have 2 public hearings and 2 site walks.
Yep.
Both on separate nights. Okay, got 'em.
Okay,
Thank you, everyone.
thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, so next, moving on, is new business, site plan review, approval. Oh, no, sorry. Skipped one. Old business, final subdivision review, Michael and Aaron Sitkowski, 6-lot subdivision, tax map R29, lot 5.
Steve Height with Mike here this evening. I think we had gone through all the items that you guys discussed. I think you guys had voted for an approval last time pending conversation with the fire chief. The fire chief had recommended a 24-foot wide paved road. We came back for the discussion with you guys earlier this month, and I think we had addressed all your concerns originally. So I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was approved conditionally, waiting for the
Findings of fact.
yeah, findings of fact. So tonight, I believe we're going for findings of fact, Tammy?
Yeah, final approval of the plan and the findings of fact. I think I got them both done.
Yep, yep.
And the new drawings reflect the widening of the road?
They do. So, as you guys are going through the conversations today, you know, we were talking about why you guys are changing your ordinance going to 24 feet. It is a significant cost relative to, you know, doing a gravel at 20 feet wide. So Mike, you know, just wanted me to make sure you guys understand the significant cost associated with that, where you guys just allowed, you know, up to 5 houses on a gravel road, which doesn't have the same concern relative to fire truck access. But it's the 6th house in this case, you have a paved road, 24 feet wide paved. And in terms of cost, it's pretty significant. It's just, you just be aware of you know, what you're having applicants do.
I'd like to actually speak on that, if that's allowed.
Yeah.
So I guess my misunderstanding with it is our original proposal with the 20-foot wide, which is the town ordinance currently, along with 3-foot compacted shoulders, gives you 26 feet of drivable area. He's asking for 24 feet. He recommended 24 feet of pavement. But you guys haven't adopted that 24-foot pavement rule yet. And as Jenny said earlier, in this very meeting, you can't go back. So it's a significant cost to add 4 feet times 1,600 feet of road.
Safety trumps radius.
But there's no difference in the actual drivable area of the road. A 20-foot paved road with 3-foot compacted shoulders with the same road base is the same exact thing as a 20-foot wide paved road. 24-foot wide with 1-foot shoulders. It's 26 feet overall of base regardless. You're only adding asphalt.
What took place here at the public hearings tonight is just a recommendation going to the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen can turn all of these down. They do not have to send these to the warrant, to the voters, to the community members to vote on them. These are only recommendations. They may not like them. They may say, no, we're gonna stay with our originals, and it's done. If
Well,
it
I
goes-
understand that completely, but that hasn't happened yet. And we've been working on this for a year.
Did Chief Plant tell you you absolutely, without a doubt, had to pave on a 24-foot wide road? What did
It was a
exactly he
recommendation.
say?
Yeah,
That
so
was just a
A
recommendation.
recommendation and being told flat out you have to do something are two very different things. So you can take his recommendation, which most people would because he's our fire chief, but you don't have to. It's a recommendation. It's not you shall do this, it's a recommendation of what he thinks would be best for his guys to access that road. So
Did he
just clarify
make
that.
his recommendations in writing, or is this a verbal from the fire chief?
So we actually met with them, and Tammy, I don't think we ever saw an email from the chief
No,
for
I didn't
that. So it
So
was,
I hate to go on conversations, because if it comes up later,
Yeah.
you know, I really, if the fire chief, and I want to support our first responders, but I'm also empathetic to, you know, these guys have been coming before the board for a long time now, and we're in the midst of, you know, okay, the fire department's got new apparatus, I understand all that, and I'm sensitive to both sides of it, but at some point, I feel like we have to draw a line in the sand where on this side is what the regulations are today, and these are possible future regulations. I think I would feel better having an email from the fire chief saying that this is a requirement or this is a recommendation. And then we let the landowner make the decision what he wants to do. And I think that's fair to everybody involved. If he's requiring it, that's a different ballgame.
The chief did tell me, and it was verbal again,
Yeah.
that he is recommending to them, or he recommended, because it was after the fact,
Yeah.
that he was gonna recommend exactly what they.
Is it too much to ask the fire chief to write a letter to the town saying, this is what I recommended? Because the issue is when we're, you know, I don't know, 10 years from now, oh, well, I said, this is what was said. There's no record. Just let's.
So it's a requirement of the applicant to receive that letter from Chief Plan.
Okay.
so we had met with them, so make no mistake, we met with them, we asked for that in writing, so we would have something to go through. We did talk to Tammy, we came to you guys, we told you what he recommended. The plan doesn't change relative to the width of the roadway in any way, shape, or the roadway or anything else.
It doesn't change.
It doesn't change anything, the drainage or anything else. It's only adding that additional 4 feet of pavement. And we would love to stay with what the original plan was, and if it becomes a requirement after the fact, then that's something that we'll have to live with at that point. But it's just, it's a.
I guess just
Well,
after,
you'd be
after,
grandfathered in at that point, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It can't become a requirement after.
Right.
That's not what the land use says.
Correct.
But what we need clarification on is what Chief said. I did not have the conversation with him, you guys did not have the conversation with him.
Right.
So
Right.
you guys
It's muddy
can
for
go
me.
on.
I think if
No,
you guys
it-
could solicit,
No,
request a letter from the chief.
I get that. The problem is that we've done that. We've met with them, we asked them for that in writing, because we were coming here tonight to get approval.
Right, and you
so
don't have
we're
it
gonna be
yet.
Coming back another time,
Yeah.
another time.
It's rare for him not to follow through with something.
Yeah. Well, I know he was busy with the selectmen's meeting on Tuesday, was it? I think it was
the
Tuesday.
fact of the matter, the only reason I'm
But-
bringing this up, you know, it was a recommendation. I didn't understand it from the beginning because nothing changed with the drivable area. I think our road maintenance agreement, I think, doesn't even allow on-street parking on the private road, so it's not a safety issue. It's just a factor of, you know, I haven't gone against anything, any recommendations, anything
Right,
that you
you-
guys
you-
have said.
yeah.
We've gone above and beyond
Yep.
what is going on, and this is the first little bit of pushback that I'm willing to speak up about, because I think
Yep.
it's a significant cost that is not it just doesn't make sense.
I can tell you that nobody can make you do it. It's not in our land use, nobody can hold you to the fire of that. However, if he wrote a letter requiring it, you would have to follow it. So
But he
if
is
he
not.
just recommended that, and he said the word recommend to you, if he said the word recommend to you, then you don't have to do that. We
Right.
cannot
Okay,
make
so
you do
can the
that.
board approve the original design that they have approved?
The 20
I want to support our first responders.
That was on January 6th.
Well, it's still gonna be 26 feet wide, right?
Exactly.
You'll always have the 26-foot wide.
And then it's just gonna have the compacted 3 feet instead of the compacted 1 foot on each side.
So it doesn't change the drivable surface, other than the fact that you only have 20 feet of pavement.
I mean, that seems, as long as it's up to standard, I mean, I wouldn't see any issues with that. I mean, there's concerns, and like you said, is if it's a requirement versus a recommendation, if they're only recommending that, I mean,
I think this is just an opinion, I feel like we gotta work from facts, and I feel like we need to work from something tangible. And if we're not, then we're not doing our due diligence as a board. And that's my humble opinion. But if the chief, if we're going on a verbal, granted, the chief's a man of integrity, I have no doubt that he would stand behind that. But the fact that nothing's in writing, when all of us have moved on, way down the road, are we setting a precedent? And I feel like we are. And I feel strongly that, and I don't know whether we request it from the board or if the applicant requests it, but I think we need a letter from the fire chief saying, this is my recommendation, or this is what you.
Or his requirement.
Right.
Requirement,
Yeah.
and I think we need to
Yeah.
hold his feet to the fire on that. I
Yeah.
want to support our fire chief 100%, I have to.
And I agree, and I don't think it's gonna be hard for the chief to give us that.
No, but I think you guys, just to piggyback what you said, I do think that it is up to the applicant to follow up and get that letter from him. And as soon as they do, she sends it right over to me or Tammy or both. It had to have been 3 weeks ago that they met with him, so they've had plenty of ample time to get it back,
Yeah.
so.
Well, so Jen.
So maybe a reminder.
So make no mistake. So this is not for a lack of trying on our part.
Oh, I believe you. It's just.
And so
weird
I
that
know you say
told
it's
them.
incumbent upon us. We've done everything we can possibly do to get that in writing. We haven't got it.
Did you send an email requesting it?
We had a phone, well, that's a good point. So if I continue the email trail, I can do that too.
I always say, everything in writing, right?
No, I'm with you. And
Yeah.
and so that's why when we
But
went to the meeting.
I believe that he used the word recommended. I know him.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time out on sites with him. I believe you that he said recommended, but they don't have to take that. I understand.
No,
what you're saying,
the ambiguity associated with it, and what you just said is exactly correct. I understand the position of the board. And as Mike had said, we came here a year ago with a sketch plan. We went for a site walk. The plan was supposed to go to staff for review. We never got that review until after we had the approval. You guys said, oh, what about the fire chief? And the fire chief came back with a letter, like at the night of the meeting, said, let's take a look at the width of the road. Okay, let's go have a meeting with him. We sat with him, we went through the whole thing, we talked about the widths and so forth. He used the same argument that you had identified as well. We have new equipment, and we want to be able to park a truck and move something down. I said, well, this is standard for every municipality in the country, rally. And we'd asked them very specifically, please, we need this in writing so we have some trail to tell us what we're trying to do. So when we came back a couple of weeks ago with a 24-foot recommendation to show you that it can happen, it doesn't change, we still hadn't been able to get that in writing. So if you guys want to table it, or I don't know what you guys want to do.
Yeah, chief on speed dial.
I would call him, but it's 9:15 at night.
Understood.
Yeah.
So, I wasn't contesting this because I want this to be done. I want to be.
Right,
I'm sure
and
you
you've
guys
been
can-
more than helpful through this whole process. You've
And
definitely
I
been
wouldn't
jumping
have
through
said
all the
anything
hoops,
tonight
so.
If the things that happened earlier in this very meeting that weren't said. I mean, you guys went for a dirt road on 5 houses. And you're,
Not yet, we didn't.
well, that's the same thing. So it's the same thing with going with the 24 feet. Not yet you didn't, but you're trying to,
We're recommending it.
Yeah, he's making a
You're
recommendation.
Right.
But
Which
it
leaves
hasn't
us
been
in
approved.
limbo.
If the word
Right.
recommend is in the chief's letter, everything's good. I just, from my standpoint, not having been privy to that conversation, I can't in good conscience vote on it because I'm doing a disservice to our public servant, our fire chief. And that's my opinion, but he is entitled to his opinion on new construction. And if it is a recommendation, I feel pretty strongly that then lies on you to make, okay, he recommended this, but this is what we're gonna do, knowing you own that outcome.
Right.
If he can't get in there with his apparatus, that's on you, not on him, because he
Yeah.
made the recommendation. But recommendation versus requirement, it needs to be cleared up, at least from my standpoint, before I can.
We understand, and the good thing is that Mike's not he doesn't need to get this done tomorrow, or we would have been here in December.
Yeah.
But hoping we were gonna get these answers all to this point, and then,
Absolutely.
Yep.
And I
We're 3 hours
sympathize with your
later.
frustration, I absolutely do. I would be in the same boat.
is it, Tammy, would it be appropriate for you to send an email as well to him to request that?
Actually, I will. I'll send it
Okay.
first thing tomorrow morning, and I'll
Okay.
have an answer pretty
Okay.
early in the morning.
Okay.
That's perfect.
Okay.
Do we have to come back to another public hearing or when's the next meeting that we would?
Are we at a point where if the fire chief is.
We did.
issuing
We're-
emails saying,
yeah.
yeah, this is
Yep.
my recommendation, can we do a conditional approval tonight and vote on that with the condition, if it's a recommendation by the fire chief, the applicant does so at his own risk, knowing that he is going against the recommendation.
Yeah, would go
I
with
mean,
the road
I think
standard.
that's reasonable and it's expedient.
Yeah,
I'm good with that.
yep,
Yeah, if those are the words that said, so just to be very clear, he says recommendation, we're gonna stay with a 20-foot paved road, 26-foot gravel.
At that point, it's on you.
Yep, understood.
Right.
No, we have no problem with that.
Which is the regulation.
Yep, and if he comes back and says it's a requirement, then you already have the plan for 24, we're beholden to that. I think you're good with
I'll
that.
make a motion for conditional approval with concurrence from the fire chief that it is a recommendation and not a requirement.
I'll second that.
further discussion?
Hold
Yep.
on.
Okay,
Gotta make sure I got this one written down exact.
yep,
Correct.
okay.
Just to make it clear, I'll send the email as soon as I get back. First thing I'll say.
Thank you for that, appreciate
No
it.
worries.
I'll send you an
And
email when I
honestly,
get home.
You're
I-
lucky the Olympics are on, okay?
Pardon me?
I said you're
Yeah.
lucky the Olympics are
Oh, yeah.
on.
Are we in agreement? An email is an official record. It's coming from a state computer system. If he responds in the affirmative that it is a recommendation.
Oh, they'll write you a letter.
Oh,
Yep.
you will?
I'll
Okay.
write
Oh, yeah.
a letter
Okay.
for you.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the motion I've got. Kilroy, motion to approve conditional approval with the condition from the fire chief that the road width is as a recommendation, not a requirement.
Paved road, like
Paved
road.
Paved,
Yeah, the road width
paved
doesn't
road and
actually
width
change.
requirements.
Yeah.
That way it's specific for you.
And then with
Does that
that,
answer the mail for you guys? I hope.
well, does that still mean that we can go through the findings of fact then?
We'll just have to change one of the conditions based on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this condition, well, once they vote, if it's voted in the affirmative, this condition will be added to the findings.
Okay, yeah.
Under road name, I see that on here before you vote. Their road name has
Wait,
been.
they gotta vote. Motion on the floor.
Yeah. All in favor?
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
Now you
vote
can-
name.
Their road name has been approved, that's all I was gonna say.
Okay.
So all
Thank
the
you.
plans need to
Yeah.
be changed to say Sitco Lane.
Yep.
All the plans,
Okay,
okay?
Okay.
With the asphalt width TBD.
no, we'll know.
Well,
Tomorrow morning.
yeah,
So we go through the conditions of approval and findings of fact tonight. The plans that Tammy gets will have the correct name on the plan.
okay.
I thought we already put Sequoia.
Steve, before you leave, I'm gonna have to have your email address.
Yeah,
I don't know if I do, but I will
yeah,
have to
no
have it.
problem.
I'm pretty sure I've got it, but
You won't be in tomorrow though, I'll be working in the morning on it. Okay.
I'll give it to you, no problem.
I'll send her an email tonight with all of this.
I have yours.
I'll make sure, I'll go through that.
okay, so the findings of fact, gentlemen?
So the only condition change would be for the pending, the fire chief's,
Recommendation.
Changes.
Yeah.
It changes condition one.
just condition one change, possibly changes. Well,
That's actually a typo.
No, I already fixed it.
Oh, you did?
Not
Okay.
the one we have here.
No, not on yours, I didn't get it
Okay.
out to you, I'm sorry,
Okay.
but the
No,
board
no
has it
problem.
fixed. It's on 12.1, sufficient water, I had them with 18 units, not 6.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
So-
actually, yeah, I have this. It was the findings of fact.
Here, you can have mine.
Yeah, and Mike was the one that caught it for me, so.
wait, what?
This is the finding of fact.
It's a multi-page document.
It's this one right here.
This guy.
Yep.
Okay.
Hang on,
You got it?
Got it.
Yeah.
Yep, I looked with that.
Okay.
So who works on this? I'm gonna CC you on the email tonight.
Thank you.
So it'd just be approval of findings of facts as amended?
What was the we amended condition 1, is that?
Yep.
Okay.
Make a motion that we approve the finding of fact as amended.
A second?
Okay, further discussion? All in favor?
Hey, time out,
Oh.
time out. On 12-1,
It still says
it says 6 residents at the top, and it says 18 residents down the bottom. On
It
12-1.
indicates that the quantities of water sufficient.
There were 2 of them, sorry, I only caught one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Make sure I fix it. They're not gonna sign it tonight. so-
Yeah, understood, okay. So
Yeah,
now
Okay.
thank you.
I'll go, sorry.
I like 18 that
So, Mr. Chair, you have to call for that again, sorry, I interrupted.
Okay, so, all in favor?
All right, thank you
There
very
we
much,
go.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
So for the signing of your plan, if you can get them to me by the 3rd, pending what this, we find out.
Yep.
If you wanna wait until what we find out and then change them, so you can get the name on everything, and the road width and everything on there, then we'll just roll one.
I agree.
Okay.
All right, moving on.
Good job, Phil.
Site plan review application, House of Hope Recreational Center, 25 Sawmill Hill Road.
No, you've got, there's one ahead of it. It says handout. This is for,
Oh, yeah, no, sorry. Site plan review, approval extension request, Berwick Hubbard Solar 1, LLC, tax map R1, lot 7, handout request. It's a long night.
on this one, Andrew is online. He emailed this in to me, and I told him I was gonna give it to you folks tonight, so you could do your homework. They're requesting a construction extension of, the note says 2 years. I did talk to Andrew and emailed him and let him know that 2 years would not be an option based on your land use ordinance.
It's 1.
They can do it for 1. So he said he was okay with it, but it will be on your agenda to make a decision on March 3rd.
Okay.
I have a question about the first paragraph.
Andrew's right here. So that's
Just
good.
based on the earlier conversation we had on the other solar farm that said the state regulation limited them to 2 point something megawatts. This one is listed at 4.3. So does the state?
This was approved prior to the new state regs.
Understood, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, this was approved, in fact, the findings of fact are in here
Yep.
at the end of it. That's why I included everything, so you could take and review it. and-
Yep. Yep. I mean,
We're just looking for a 1-year extension, is that?
Yeah.
Well, that's the maximum. Now, if we go to the 1 year, can he then apply for another 1 year? Or is that it? Or are we done? And you gotta start the whole process again.
Right, I don't know if they can come back for a second one. I've never had anybody ask for a second extension, so I would have to double check your land use.
Okay.
I don't think there is a cap on it. I think it just has to be, talked about within that year. If they need an extension, I would think they'd just come back and we'd discuss it again.
Okay.
Drew, do you honestly believe that you're gonna get it done in a year?
Well, just get it started. It just has to be
Yeah,
started, yeah.
Yeah. So introductions, thanks board members for having us. I'm Drew Bardakis. I'm the civil engineer and project manager on behalf of the applicant. Soltage is operating under Berwick Hubbard Solar 1 LLC. Yeah, so we were here before you last year, got the approval in March, and at the time the town planner let us know it was a 1-year permit. So over that time, Soltage has been doing their due diligence with all the surveys, phase 1 ESAs, gearing towards financial close and working with Central Maine Power on the interconnection process. And it's my understanding there's several cluster studies, things have gone on, and things have been resolved. My understanding that will be resolved sometime here in the near future very soon. So it's my belief that construction may start this year, as early as the spring or the summer, but with, given the March 18th expiration, we want to get ahead of this. If the cluster study is resolved in March, we didn't want to miss that time lapse of 1 year. So again, the letter did request 2 years. This has come up in other communities for other projects for Soltage. Again, different bylaws, different requirements. The permit extension, lasted 2 years, so we asked for another 2 years. But again, as Tammy mentioned, we're, just reviewed with Soltage and amenable to the 1 year extension. The permit was valid for 1 year, amenable to a 1 year extension. So it's our understanding that construction will proceed this year.
Okay.
Yeah, part of what I do when I'm not doing this is I manage construction projects around the country, and every time we get a request for an extension, there are two things that I always demand. And the first one is, why do you need the extension, which you told us? And the second thing is, when are you gonna start? So I think we got both answers tonight, so I'm good with that. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
So we're looking for a motion to approve the 1 year extension. I will make that motion to approve a 1 year extension.
Second.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor? Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Drew.
You made out well today, Drew. You don't have to come back on March 3rd.
Thank you, Tammy, for the short notice, getting it on in February, appreciate it.
Okay, so next, moving on, is site plan review application, House of Hope Recreational Center, 25 Sawmill Hill Road, tax map U1, lot 14.
So my name is Dan Cayazzo. I work for Civil Consultants, and we're representing the House of Hope for this project. I'm joined with Mike Hennessy. Yep.
House of Hope. How you doing?
So this project, it's at 25 Sawmill Hill, and it's the existing House of Hope projects, or existing House of Hope site. So currently on site, there's two buildings that, the House of Hope has their soup kitchen and their food pantry. The site's located in the village overlay, and there's an existing 20-foot drainage easement with the abutting parcel here that we have 12-inch drainage pipes that lead through and then outlet across Sawmill Hill, and it outlets into the Salmon Falls River. So the proposed project is for a 20,800 square foot recreational youth center. And this is located over the existing parking lot area to the south here. So the building meets all the setback requirements, the lot coverage requirements. Let's see, so the building itself will contain a basketball court, soccer fields, a cafe, laundry, classrooms, office spaces, and a theater room. The building will operate mainly Monday through Friday, after school hours, 2 to 8 p.m. So currently there's 2 access ways into that southern parking lot. So this project is proposing a one-way access utilizing the 2 existing entrances for drop-off for students and kids, and it's been designed to handle a typical school bus to make it through there. The remainder of the parking will be in this existing northern lot. There will be 2 ADA spaces close to the building. Let's see. So currently there's another entrance that comes out kind of between the 2 lots. So that will be converted into a one-way. and there'll be some additional parking added in there as well. So as far as the stormwater goes, so we've actually discussed with the abutter over here, and they've given us approval to do some work, change a catch basin on their property, and we're gonna reroute the stormwater all the way around. And we've sized the pipes, they're all gonna be 15-inch HDPs coming into this new catch basin, and then it will route through the existing 24-inch pipe that runs under Sawmill Hill. Let's see. Yeah, so I mean, that's pretty much the big overview of the project, and we think it'll be a great addition to the community. It'll provide, you know, some good after-school uses, and I don't know if there's anything else you want to add for as far as that goes.
Yeah, so we'll have the indoor basketball court, indoor soccer field, youth rooms, we'll have homework help after school, and then as time develops and we figure out what more the needs are, we'll probably add programs. I think we're going to start slow in the beginning and try to do a good job as opposed to trying to do everything at once to please everybody and do a poor job at everything. So I think that's our plan. Our hope is to break ground this spring. Is our goal.
So with that, I think we'll open it to you guys.
So the parking you currently have, the space where you're proposing to build is currently parking?
Yeah, so there's, I'll bring it back to the existing lot here. So currently, you know, there's this existing parking lot with two access ways in. And I mean, for the most part, I don't, how often would you say that that's
It's never
full?
filled.
Okay.
It's never full.
That's a basketball court currently?
Correct, yeah. So we'd move the
yeah.
basketball hoops to the other parking lot.
I gotcha. Okay.
And then just most of that pavement would come out. There'd be maybe a third of it left, and that would be the entrance and then the exit. So it'd be a one-way, so it'd just be safer, so you don't have cars coming in and out. There'll also be an overhang, so when kids get dropped off, they can get dropped off, and there'll be a lot of glass, so you can see kids coming in and going out, so kids don't get grabbed.
So what kind of building will it be?
Steel building?
Yeah, it's gonna be a pre-engineered metal building.
Okay.
Patco out of San.
So it'll be on a slab?
Yes.
Yeah, and then most likely it'll have, you know, a full frost wall.
Right.
Around the perimeter.
Yeah, and higher in the back just because of the grade.
Does that allow you sufficient parking for your employees and your patrons and the work?
I think it will have more than enough, and if we had to add, there's also access here from another road that we could do some parking up here. And then at some point, we want to do some sort of a, like, I don't know, a skating rink or something back there. But there was definitely ample room here to add parking if we did need it.
And because it is in the village overlay, you know, there is the 25% open space requirement. So currently, there's, I think I have on the proposed, well, I removed it because we, in our discussion, in our preliminary meeting, you know, initially I wasn't sure if that 25% requirement was, it had to be, you know, contiguous or if it was spread out over the entire site. So, you know, there's approximately 23% of the open space just in this parcel here. So there is other, you know, vegetated areas that get us over the 25. So if in the future, you know, additional parking was added to here, I believe the 25% open space would still be met.
Is that a green area or is that a thoroughfare between the two buildings? Between that one and the new proposed building?
So this is all lawn through here.
Yeah.
You know, and so part of the thought is there'll be, you know, tables and you know, an area for people to congregate outside there as well. You know, and this is all vegetated kind of in the front as well. And we're really utilizing the existing entrances, so there's still kind of, you know, a vegetated area in the center there as well.
My only concern looking at it quickly is just, with, once again, concurrence with the fire chief, if you have to be there, obviously if you have to have first responders respond, that cul-de-sac, if there's cars parked in there, if they're dropping kids off, granted, he can park on the street, it's close enough to the street, but, you know, what's he looking for if he needs to respond to your facility? You know, is he gonna be able to get in there?
Yep.
Is he gonna be able to give you the adequate response that you as a taxpayer deserve? Right.
I believe you put something in your application.
Yeah, I was just trying to find it. So we did send all the letters. Oh,
Tonight
go
is
ahead.
for Dan to show you what you're gonna
Got
be
it.
looking at,
Yep.
so that when you come back on March 3rd, I'll have my letter done, my memo done, not letter, memo. And then you'll know exactly what you're gonna be looking at when you go to look at it, so that when you'll hear him talking as you're looking at it, it'll make it easier for you to take and review it.
Okay.
So there won't be any interpretation issues, I'm hoping.
And
There was a
behind-
reason why I did it this way,
All right.
so.
And behind the current House of Hope now, that's paved, so you could also get a fire truck back there, there's plenty of space to do that.
Yeah, there is pavement that
Goes all the- yep.
comes back here.
And then there'll be about 10 feet on the back, from the back of the building to the property line to also get hoses back there if, hopefully it's never needed, but if there is. And then all this, the building will be sprinklered as well, so.
Yeah, and that's a based on the size, you know, in the fire code, it has to be sprinkled for that size.
That reading's fundamental, I should have just continued. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Great, yeah.
It's great with the edge going in and just up the hill, you guys are gonna have that facility. I like it.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great spot, and we're excited.
This is a project that you wanted to do like 6 or 7 years ago. I
Yeah,
think.
we've been raising money, our goal is to build it without any debt.
Yeah.
So our goal is 2 million for the whole project, we've raised almost 900,000 so far.
That's great. I remember you and I talked about that like 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, this is a quick question, is Sawmill Hill part of the stormwater, the revamp for, what's it called? The MS4, yeah.
Yeah, he's already been in touch with Christy, and I'm gonna massacre her last name, our representative for MS4.
Okay.
And she likes the plan of relocating it around the outside of the building.
Okay.
It'll still cover it, it'll
Yep.
upgrade all the culverts.
Okay, I just had a feeling that it was either in it or pretty close to the MS4 area, because they're trying to redo that whole stormwater, is that correct? Yeah. Okay.
In April, you'll have Christy will be with us.
Okay.
To provide you with a training on it, because there are new ordinances coming forward with it.
Okay.
So.
Perfect. All right, thank you.
Quick question, so where do we go from here? So we come back March 3rd, and
Yep.
then what's the process look like?
March 3rd, they'll come back after having reviewed your project, and if they find it complete, if I have any recommendations based on with the new plans after we spoke for, you know, the sketch plan, I'll go through, as Dan sent me, all of the standards, all the design, all of that, and if there's any recommendations, they'll be done at that time. You'll then have probably a site walk, because even though people are familiar with it, your neighbors might like to also see what's gonna happen. There'll be a public hearing, and then hopefully final approval.
Okay, so March 3rd will be a public hearing, or the one?
No.
No.
The one
No.
after that
Yep.
will be a public hearing?
Yep.
No,
No.
because you've gotta be deemed complete before we can schedule the public hearing.
Okay.
And there's no vote for like an acceptance or anything
Plan
like that
acceptance,
tonight, right?
no.
Okay, all right.
No decisions will be made tonight, because the board
Yeah.
has not looked at anything except what you've presented. They've got
Okay.
the packages you made for us, so they'll be able to take and review those.
Okay, and so we received the approval from the abutters just like a week after we had submitted this. So I printed out you know, their letter. If you guys just want to add it to, I'll keep a copy for myself. You can have a copy. I just want to take.
Thank you.
So that you know, the abutters will be notified officially for the public hearing. I have to send that out, everything.
Okay.
And it has to go 200 feet around your property, the entire property, not just
Okay.
Sounds good, thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving right along.
Make sure I can get a copy of that letter, please.
Yep. Okay, moving right along.
Okay, thank you. I just want to put it in your file.
Subdivision, Second Amendment to Richard Demaris approved subdivision by Les Bodwell, tax map R44, lot 21-5.
Good evening. My name is Jay Stevens. I'm with Civil Consultants. Civil Consultants is doing the engineering for this Bodwell project. Basically, we're here to give you a very brief history of what's happened out there to explain what our current proposal is. Last summer, we came in with a 53-lot subdivision called Navina Acres that included property that came off the end of Linger Lane and property that came off Norman Court. It tied it all together, and they were 53 units. Over the summer, while we were working on the application to come in for final approval, this did receive preliminary approval by the board. But while we were working on the final approval, the owner of this parcel and the owner of this parcel decided it was not going to be viable the way it was, so they dissolved the partnership, and Mr. Bodwell, who owns the bottom piece, decided that he wanted to continue with his parcel to come in and still do a subdivision. At the time, we were talking with Southern Maine as your planning consultant, and they noticed that this parcel that Les owns was part of a previous subdivision. And in fact, in 2008, there was an approved subdivision that came in like this that had 19 or 20 lots in total. Fully approved, fully started, they started doing the work. For whatever reason, the owner at the time decided, well, that was a bigger project than he wanted. So he went back in 2014 and modified the project to just a 4-lot subdivision, and then the remainder of the land just sat there. And this was the parcel that Les was now partnering up for that great big project. So the Regional Planning Commission said, or whatever their full title is, said,
TDC, yep.
Right, that guy, those guys. They sat there and said, well, what you're really doing is modifying this subdivision, not starting a new subdivision. And we said, well, yeah, this already was amendment number 1, so we'll come in with amendment number 2. And when we came in with amendment number 2, we realized that basically all we're doing is exactly what was approved the first time. We've got the exact same road, we've got the exact same lot layout. What we did do was we upgraded the information with the stormwater stuff and the stormwater buffers to match the current requirements, because since 2008, they're obviously different than 2021, 2022. So what we've done is we've upgraded all of the things that have changed at the state level. And what we would like to do is come in with a modification. What we're asking for in our waiver request, which I believe you have our full waiver request.
Yeah, they have the complete packet you did.
Okay, so they've got 2 packets actually at this point. One was what we think we should be able to do, and what we're asking for in a waiver is, typically, if you have a modification to an approved subdivision and it's just moving lot lines between things, you go straight to final application, just whatever the minor change is. The caveat in there is if you're creating new lots, you have to go to preliminary. before you can go to final. What we were looking at, sitting there saying, well, okay, technically, based on the First Amendment, we would be creating new lots. But in actuality, the original project had all those same lots. And actually, in total, we're one lot less than what this one had. We're actually now putting in a lot down in here that was in the original one. The lot numbers is one less lot in total. And what we're asking for is to be able to go to final, step for final approval, skipping preliminary approval. Part of our rationale is for this project that went in as Navina Acres as 53 lots. Part of the preliminaries is where you sit there and you say, okay, we've looked at historic, we've looked at national wetlands, we've looked at fish and wildlife. We did all that. We actually covered both sides when we did that. So all of that was previously done when this received preliminary approval, and we don't understand why there would be a good reason to redo everything that we already did for that preliminary approval. The condition of the preliminary approval at the time was that we did have to do a traffic evaluation before we came in for final. We have done that since it had been required at that point in time. And part of what happened when we did that was the traffic person came back and said, oh, by the way, your project is so much smaller now, dropping from 53 units to 14 units, that a traffic study doesn't even make any sense. We can't find anything that justifies doing anything as a result of that smaller number of lots. But we do have that traffic study. We did already contact the water department, the fire department, and got letters from both of them that they are happy with the new plans that we have, which is another part of one of the packages you have. Today, I received the letter from the sewer department saying that they are happy with the plans. They asked for a change in the pump station design. We did everything that they requested, and we got a letter today, which I haven't been able to give Tammy yet, that says they are happy with the project. So what our request was originally to Tammy was to be able to come before the board and find out if in fact we could get a waiver to go to final approval without preliminary approval. We do understand that a public hearing would probably be required anyway for the final, and this is a change from 53 lots to 14 lots, and that's what we were hoping to do tonight, was get the board to agree that we could go to final approval, but we would have to have a public hearing as part of that process.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Is that basically what I talked with you about, Tammy?
Yeah.
The original approval for the 14 parcel subdivision?
Yep.
When was that approved?
2008.
2008.
Was modified in 2014.
Modified in 2014. Has anything substantively changed with lot sizes or the requirements for the road since that was approved?
I can answer part of that. Okay. Since then, the town has said they will not maintain dead-end roads. Okay. So as our new project is set up, this is already a public road. This little short piece with a cul-de-sac.
Still private. Nobody owns it, I guess, because I'm paying the plowing on that. We contacted you and you said, it's not yours, you're responsible for it.
You gotta talk in the mic. Sorry, it's for the people that are watching on TV. You gotta.
Mike Jakes, I live on Halflinger, so I don't know who is responsible for that, but I've been covering the plowing, because Les said he is not responsible for that. So I did that all year long. I don't know if it's a HO Homeowners Association or what. I don't know why the town's not taking it over, besides the top coat's not on, but, so I don't know, back to talking about bringing equipment in, and that road gets beat up. Who's responsible for that?
Well, what part of what we know is that from here on, definitely is going to be a private road, and it will be the responsibility of this group.
If I could interject to that. So he's right that the subdivision that's currently there now only has a binder coat of paving, and the town of Berwick does have money in escrow to finish the paving on that road. So that's one of the things that when we put the road in, we'll do the same thing, we'll do a binder coat. And as we, you know, complete the road, then we'll do a final on the entire road.
My question was, why is that not done now before this starts? Because it's 75% done, the cul-de-sac's done, besides the road and the piece of sidewalk. So I don't know why that's not finished off before anything else goes on, and the town hasn't taken that over.
So
I
is
don't
that-
understand.
Well, there's a good reason for
May I
that.
ask the question, is that an issue for your HOA? Are you in an HOA?
I don't even think we're in an HO, I don't know, it's supposed to be done. David Damaris, I sent him a bill. The guy that, the boy, Dick Damaris, who bought the property off of, he died. David took over. David said, I sold that property a year and a half. I owe you nothing. So I don't know where to go from there.
Okay. Is there any way?
Not to be you,
that we
I mean,
can-
I'd love you to. I've been helping him out,
Can
plowing
we
the road.
verify on
what he
the
said, yeah.
map if that,
But
because
I
it's
just
not a
want
town
that
road,
done. I don't
correct?
care what you do
Yeah,
with the rest.
I do not believe it's a town road, but I'd have to
Let me
double
just say
check.
something.
I'd have to check the list.
One, well, just to respond to one of the things that he said was that, you know, he said that should be finished first, and that would be an absolute mistake, to finish that road. You know, let us get the binder coat on the whole road, let us get the major construction done, and then put a nice clean coat on the whole road as we back out.
If he's got a bond to, if that road gets.
Yeah, I'll have a
cleaned
bond, everything, I mean, you know.
up,
the-
my circle, I mean, because if that.
All right, all right, all right. You can't just be speaking like this. I'm sorry. It's
Yeah,
just,
sorry.
you have to go up to the mic if you have a question, but right now, it's just a new business, so it's not really a,
Public hearing.
right,
It's
it's
not a
not,
public
so we're just gonna go over these plans, and then that's it.
So the new subdivision would be an HOA maintained, is that?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
all right. And you guys
There
have
there are
So
current
it's a-
covenants
It's a PUD.
in place for the
It's a
existing houses.
Yeah, it's like a planned unit development,
Okay.
but I don't think the town officially calls them that yet.
Yeah.
Some towns do, but
So-
Berwick's not one of them, so.
I recall this real well when we were looking at the 53
Right.
unit and where the road was going. And I remember this gentleman because he's at the end of the cul-de-sac and this road's cutting right in front of his property.
Well, it goes
and-
along his. He's on this side. This was the person that I think you remember talking.
No, on the.
No, that's him.
The road
That's
is
him
my
where your
driveway.
finger is.
I thought that was yours.
The right of way is my driveway right now going down.
Oh,
Yeah.
That
this
one is
side.
Alan
Oh,
next door.
okay, I'm sorry.
Right. And
Yeah,
I
we won't
remember
run by
when the 53 was going in, they were gonna leave the cul-de-sac alone.
We
Right.
talked about a secondary access.
Right, and there was gonna be a secondary.
And there was gonna be a
access, and
section.
You guys were gonna be left alone, right?
No, no, so what was gonna happen with the 53 lots was that these roads would connect to the property on the side, and this issue was one of the reasons why we, you know, my partner and I on the other side, had different visions for this.
Right.
And the issue is, you know, we're crossing their property, and they bought their property, understanding that there would be 15 more lots behind
Right.
them.
Which
It's
they
not
do.
50.
Right.
And that was a big issue, right? And so, you know, as things heated up between me and my partner, started looking at the cost of this project, the scale of the project, I just said, you know what, I'm just gonna go do my own thing, and I'm gonna go back to what everybody agreed to, because, you know, look, I don't need bad karma in my life, right? And I was getting it from my partner, I was getting it from the people I have to cross their property. He has been nothing but a gentleman since we went back to this plan. He's offered, you know, I've had a guy over there, you know, doing a little bit of clearing, he's offered him, you know, water, coffee, use the restroom, I mean, you know, that's the kind of, you know, I live in this town. Like somebody said, I plan on living and dying in this town.
Hopefully not anytime soon.
Me as well, I have a solar farm too, so I, you know, same thing, I plan on living, and it's in my backyard, I plan on living and dying in this town. You know, I don't need the bad karma, I want this is named after my youngest daughter, my 3-year-old daughter, Navina Estates. I want it to be a happy thing, you know, and we will, as we back out of there, we will pave the entire road. We're gonna have a bond on the whole road too. I would not recommend doing, I mean, I can do it, the town has the money to do it, but I would not recommend putting brand new paving on there and then us running heavy equipment through there for the next 6 or 8 months.
So what I'm hearing you say, if I'm hearing you correctly, when you complete this subdivision, you're saying you're gonna pave the entire road?
Correct.
Okay.
And then
As far as road maintenance, who is gonna maintain the road?
that's part of the homeowners association. The homeowners association, currently there's covenants in place. I don't think there's an official homeowners association, but there will have to be. And that homeowners association, they'll elect a, board of directors or whatever it is, or they'll all vote, or however those go. That's not my department, but,
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the project, it's great. I think the issue comes in, as you have said, live and die here, being neighborly. Would there be a provision for grandfathering in the previous tenants at the beginning of the road, the previous owners at the beginning of the road into that HOA, so that their road is maintained?
they are grandfathered in
They are.
currently.
Okay.
So I could write a complete different set of HOA rules. They don't have to follow them.
Right.
They have to follow the covenants that they signed and agreed to.
Okay.
I can adopt those covenants and will adopt those covenants into my HOA. It's not gonna be much different. I mean, it's
Right.
pretty standard, basic stuff. So but I can't make them, if I
Understand.
add something else in, I can't make them follow it.
Understood.
Yep.
So I mean, are you gonna pretty much be in alignment with the current covenants?
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
that what I'm hearing you say?
Right.
It's pretty
What-
standard,
if
pretty
you
basic
look-
stuff.
What we had done in the original application, and is in this application that you have in your packages, you had to put covenants in your application. And what we said was, these are the type of covenants that are gonna be there, and those are exactly out of the approved covenants for the first project. What might happen is they might add a few, which again, wouldn't apply to them.
Right.
But, it was a very generic one that they had, and I think over the years, Les has found a few things that he would rather include that they did not include.
Right.
Yeah, I think that there's some things that have to be added in there. I think there has to be like a board that everybody votes on or puts people on the board. They have to, when this becomes, and one of the other things too is we talked about losing that lot, which is now open space. So in 2008, we didn't have the open space requirement. So that's why we lost a lot and it's down
Okay.
one lot. Part of the reason, but on something like this, there should be a homeowners association. There should be, I don't know if it's called a board of directors or whatever. Everybody votes and says, we want these 3 people to run the board.
Yep.
That language has to be added into the covenants in the homeowners association, and they can sign on or not, but I think at the end of the day, the basic things are, in 20 years when the road needs to be repaved, everyone's gonna have to pony up their share of the money, right? When, if they're doing the plowing, everybody's gonna pony up their share of the money. Somebody has to operate that,
Yep.
But
It
that's
seems like
gonna be on
everybody in
them.
the room's reasonable and amenable to it. I just, when the conversation started, it was like, well, he doesn't know who's responsible for what. Have the conversation, and if everybody's in agreement, it just makes life a lot easier. I mean.
Yeah, and I, that's something that, Mike and I certainly can talk about, and there's another guy next to him, he's a pretty nice guy, I get along with him pretty well. There was a little bit of hostility when we were gonna do the 53 lots, and it seems like that's gone now, and that's a good thing, so sit down, and maybe Mike wants to be the president of the homeowners association. I know I certainly don't, and will not, I'm not gonna live there, so I have no.
Tammy, you got some?
Yeah, Jay and Les, so that you know, when you came in to do the, thinking it could automatically be a final, you only provided me 3 copies of the plan that you put together. So the board does not have anything but your waiver request that has all the different diagrams on it. So Jay, if you can email me the packet, I can then email it out to them so they're all
Okay.
looking at the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I could not get that to them, I don't have that up here, so.
So you haven't added any lot changes from the original approval from 2008, is that my understanding?
No, what we've done is we've basically gone back
Well,
to that
there's
and
one
taken
lot
out.
change. Yeah, there's one lot
Yeah,
change.
the one
One
lot,
lot less.
Now, another question is sidewalks. Is there gonna be a sidewalk on there? Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Is there a statute of limitations? If it was a pre-approved
Well, they took-
project from
they-
2008, is there a window that they have to use it or lose it by, or does that approval live in perpetuity?
It's already been withdrawn, those 14, 15 lots were withdrawn in 2014. So now they're recreating a new lot.
So we can't go that off the old.
Well, that's up to you. You
I don't know
need
that
to read
that's-
your waiver section.
Like I
to
say,
find out, You can't make a decision tonight because there are so many questions.
Right, right. We're not asking for a decision tonight on approvals, but one of the issues is that, you know, I know the building permits, and they talked about it with the solar farm. He asked for a 1-year extension. He has a certain period of time to start construction. This project already has 4 or 5 lots built on it. So this project is already under construction, so I don't think that.
Right, but it was amended to only be those 4 lots. So after that, it's already been complete
Right,
up until this point, and now it's reopened. So it's.
Right, so we're just asking to amend it back to the original one.
But it's not the original one. It's similar to the original one because it has open space and 1 lot is missing. That is if you said exactly the same, it would be something completely different than, it's the same but different.
Yeah,
It is a little different, so it is not the same.
Right, but all we're asking for is, we understand that, and we know we have to go through final approval and all.
Right.
What we don't want to do is repeat preliminary approval.
Right.
That's
that's
the
all
only thing
we're
we're
asking for
asking
tonight.
for a waiver on.
Okay.
Has the requirement for lot sizes, road width, or any of that stuff changed substantively from 2008
I have
until now?
not looked at it because I needed to know whether or not we were gonna be doing preliminary or final.
Okay.
I have no idea. None of us were here then, so I
Yeah.
don't know.
Right.
We'd have to look
We
at
have
it.
some homework to do, is I think the short answer is we really gotta look at if the rules from 2008 have not changed substantively to 2021, I think it's reasonable, but I don't know if it's within our scope to be able to do that. I think we gotta do some homework.
Well, I think, you know, us asking to go to final and skip preliminary is based on the fact that we've already done all the engineering, all of the, you know, in the previous subdivision, right, the topo, all of that stuff, which is what you cover in preliminary. So, you know, our thought process was if we go to final, right, we do a public hearing in the next meeting, and that's when you hash those issues out.
I think we have to be smart on those.
I think is the
I think we
process.
have to be smart on those issues before we can say yea or nay.
Right, well,
I think your
that's why we're
request
saying,
is-
you know, the next
I think your
meeting is what
request
we're looking for.
reasonable, but I am not smart enough personally, on what are the statute of limitations. It changed, now it's back, and what has changed from the requirements from
Well, I'm
2008
kind of
to
actually on
now.
the statutes of limitations thing. I don't think that it really even matters because we recreated lots.
Right.
So this is in essence a new subdivision, right? It is an amendment back to the original one, but it is a new subdivision. So we're not asking you we're asking you to approve a new subdivision.
Right.
All we're asking is that you accept the preliminary work that we already did on the site at this point.
I feel like we have to do some homework. Yours first.
We're gonna have to read the waiver guidelines.
It's because if we do it for you, we gotta do it for the next guy that comes in. It sets a precedent, and we wanna do our due diligence without creating extra work for the board in the future. There's a process, we have to follow the process, and as arduous as it is, there's a reason that the process is there. If it's within the realm of possibilities to do it, we're gonna do it, but we gotta make sure it's legal and that it is within our scope to be able to do that, and I don't feel like it is currently with what information I have.
If I could make just one comment to throw in there, because
Yes, sir.
I'm very cognizant of precedents. I don't want the board to be doing something that will now cause future issues either. Actually, at the moment, I'm the town engineer in Lee, New Hampshire, Rollinsford, New Hampshire, and Hollis, Maine.
Okay.
What I do.
That's a broad.
So I actually have the definition for the waivers. So I'll just read it real quick for you. Article 14 waivers, where the board makes written findings of fact that there are special circumstances of a particular parcel proposed to be subdivided. It may waive portions of the submission requirements unless otherwise indicated in the regulations, provided the applicant has demonstrated that the performance standards of these regulations and the criteria of the subdivision statute have been or will be met. that public health, safety, and welfare are protected, and provided the waivers do not have the effect of nullifying the intent and purpose of the comprehensive plan, the zoning ordinance, or these regulations. So,
And that's basically what we were going off of, is that, you know, that's saying if all of these things have been met, and, you know, they have been, we had preliminary approvals on a 53 lot subdivision, so.
In 2008.
No, the 53 was just last year, yeah.
No, I think what I was trying to get on the precedent thing was, as that states, you know, if you have special circumstances, I cannot imagine any other project that was an approved subdivision that got shrunk and wants to go back to what was originally approved. That's about as special as circumstances I think I could ever come up with. I'm surprised we even came up with it.
I mean, you have the soil surveys, right?
Yeah.
You have all of that stuff up until now, right? Everything else is already, you've already jumped through all these hoops.
All the topo, everything, all the soils, mapping.
Yeah. We've got all the stuff from Fish and Wildlife, natural areas.
The police, the fire department, all that stuff.
Butterfly study.
Yep. So, I mean, I could understand waiving it because there's a lot of stuff that has gone through, but I would still want a site walk before the public hearing, and I'd want that before the final approval. I mean, that's...
Yeah, so we were hoping that the next meeting we could do the public hearing and final approval.
We already have 2 site walks on the next meeting and 2 public hearings the next week, the next meeting after that. I mean, there'd have to be a discussion about that.
And we have already done a site walk as well, but if you guys.
Well,
want
it's
to do
been,
another
it's
one-
changed again, like,
Actually, that's where we did the
Well,
sidewalk, right there.
Actually, the road, if you take that road and match it to the one that was sidewalked twice previously, this one, that basic road is this same basic road with a cul-de-sac on the end.
Yep.
And it's a little bit straight.
yeah.
So it's essentially the exact
And
same.
we didn't walk into the woods either. I mean, we stopped at your property and.
I did with,
Last time, yes.
That was it.
I did with Dave
First
Andreessen.
sidewalk, I walked all the way out with them.
Yeah, with Dave Andreessen and you and me.
Yeah, you were out there.
That's what I think was, right? We all.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but I mean, obviously, it's up to the board, it's just, I'm not sure what value is in that, but it's
I
up
guess
to the
for me, it would just be allowing the townspeople to come in and take a look at it again.
Yep.
I mean, that's my only thought on that. I mean, things have changed. As much as they are similar, they have changed. And that,
Yeah, and, you know, that's why we're, you know, we certainly understand we gotta go do the public hearing, we certainly understand we gotta do the final approval, you know, we're just trying to,
expedite it. Yeah, you've already done plenty
We're
of,
adverse to the waiver. I
What's
think
that?
we're not adverse to giving you the waiver, I think.
We just
you
need to
know.
do more homework, I think, because
We
we're
just
not
need
smart on the
to get past
policy
the
and what
public
the
comment
requirements.
and the site walk, and I think, you know, we're okay. Now, I know that, you know, it's a timing issue for you as well, but,
spring is coming.
yep.
we're, it's a 10:15.
Yeah.
I can't remember the
And
last
I
time.
want to
Never.
say, I appreciate everybody staying late. I mean, I know this is a grinder night for you guys. I really, really appreciate it. You know, I appreciate all the work you guys put in.
But yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense, and if we can get it done and, you know, meet all the requirements currently, I don't see why we wouldn't, at least vote on it, that's for sure. You know, at the appropriate time, but I don't think now's the time.
I guess part of what we want to know is how you were leaning, so we know how to be ready for the next meeting.
I think we just gotta make sure that the 2008 plan, so this plan, the 2008/2012 plan, morphed into the other one where you were doing 50 some odd houses. And that changed the lot size, et cetera, correct?
Yeah.
And now we're going
That's
back to the original plan, which was approved in 2008. My only concern is,
with slight
Is
variations.
there parity between the 2008 requirements and the 2021 requirements? And I don't have that answer, so I just want to make sure per lot size.
But this is
frontage.
basically what was approved last year for that section, right?
Right, right.
It's
And
very
I don't know-
close, but it is slightly different, because
Yeah,
the road
because-
did
right.
change a little, because it was going up.
Right.
And I don't know what the
Across
rules
road.
were in 2008, but I know that all of these lots are oversized lots.
They are.
Yeah.
So I'm confident that, you know, in 2008, they met the land use requirements, and they certainly
Yeah,
do now.
the only things that really changed was the green space, I'm
Right,
pretty
the
sure.
open space,
Yeah, open
and then there
space.
there were some different, you know, rainwater issues. you
Well,
know,
yeah,
some
the
different
buffers
rules.
changed. The DEP rules changed, so the buffers associated with stormwater modified.
Oh, okay. Yep, okay.
We did change.
I mean,
we
Jen,
updated
Tammy,
those.
do you guys have any comments on this?
Not yet, I haven't done a full review because I don't know which review I'm doing.
Okay.
So once I know, so,
Yep.
now I've gotta get information for you, Jay's gotta give me the plan so you can see the whole plan.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So we're not gonna act on this tonight then, and, I mean, how?
Schedule their sidewalk?
Yeah, schedule the site walk, and,
I mean, we've already got 2 sidewalks scheduled for next, or 2 Thursdays from now, so, I mean, unless we do Saturday.
yeah,
That's to keep things nice and tight.
yeah,
You wouldn't mind a Saturday.
No, I'm available anytime.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind a Saturday,
okay.
like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock,
How about 9?
9?
Yeah, does 9 work? I'm an early person, I'd
Yeah,
rather
that works
get,
for me, yeah.
okay. Okay, so 9 on Saturday?
This Saturday?
This Saturday. Day after tomorrow or next week? Because we still have another week after that.
Around this weekend.
Okay, so let's,
I've seen it twice.
let's,
I've been there twice.
yeah,
We could see it again.
okay.
Don't go by me.
Yeah.
I don't have time to advertise for the sidewalk, if we do it this Saturday.
Okay, so then let's do it next Saturday then,
Okay, that would be February what? It's the 26th.
26, at 9, okay,
That work?
I'm good.
okay.
All
The
right,
only
so,
thing we might have to do is go check and be sure the flags are okay, because the deer tend to eat them when there's snow out there.
so sorry, that's the 26th?
Yep,
Yeah, calendar's good. Yeah, it's a Saturday.
late night.
9 AM, right?
Yep.
Early morning at 4:30.
Okay, so, next step, we're gonna do the site walk, and then,
Then we'll have our discussion on if you need the final or the preliminary review or not. We're just
so-
gonna get more information on that, and then we'll get back to you by probably the site walk.
okay.
Yeah, if you have it by then, that would be good.
Okay.
Jay, if you can email me the plan over tomorrow,
Yep.
Tuesday morning, I'll get it right out to the board, and if I can get hooked up online from home, I'll get it out sooner, but we're still working on that part.
Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Yep,
I appreciate
thank
you
you.
staying late.
I may have to bring it to you as a thumb drive. I
Yeah.
don't know if there's a limit to how big your files can be.
I haven't seen one yet, but if you thumb drive it, that's even better, because then I can take and break them up, so that when they go out, if I have to separate them, I can do that.
Well, I'll give you both the packets I gave you.
Okay, that works.
Yep.
You guys get jammed up on any parking.
Okay. So next is the public comment. Anyone have any?
Thank you.
Sir, can I get your name?
Oh, my cheeks.
All right, seeing how no one's coming to the public comment.
Okay.
Next is informational items.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, what?
Informational items, Central Maine Power Letter.
This came in the mail, addressed to the planning board, and it has to do with Central Maine Power and of all things, solar units. I know, tonight. It has some pretty good information on it, on how CMP works with the solar developers so that they can get the appropriate information that they need to be able to connect to the grid work that the solar companies are trying to bring in. I just thought it might be good because we had so many of them recently and more coming up, so,
Keep it on file.
yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Anything else?
Should we consider a checklist for solar specifically? I mean, there's been so many of them, and now I'm like, which one are we talking about? If we had a checklist, you know, from site review to surety bond to, you know, all of these wickets that we keep. Decommissioning.
Disposal, all that stuff.
And then we provide that to the applicant, we're like, here's our requirements, that these are the questions we're gonna ask. It makes it easier for everyone.
Well, the solar array is a conditional use, right?
Non-visibility from a road.
You can make, you're talking about making an
Fully
ordinance.
intend to get a phone call
solar,
from you this
right?
week, Paul.
Because it's got that
Fully
ordinance.
intend to get
Oh,
a
is that
phone
what-
call
yeah.
from you next
That
week.
way it's all in one place.
I think that's brilliant, actually. Yeah.
Ordinance, put it in the ordinance.
I can't hear you. What'd you say?
I said you're gonna write an ordinance for solar, right?
Yeah, but
Put
what
the
he's saying is
checklist-
getting the checklist into place pretty quickly, because that ordinance can't go to town vote now until November.
Yep.
So, I
At
agree
least,
with you.
at least have a
That's where we're
checklist.
going.
Yep.
And then we're doing our due diligence, and we're doing it, the other thing is we're doing it the same every time, because we're kind of shooting from the hip.
Here's our list.
And we've done, how many of these now? Like 4 or 5. Are we missing anything? And I just want to make sure we're setting the same standard for all of them, so they can't come back later and be like, oh.
I thought we decided as a town, and I could be wrong, but I'm gonna go back and look. I'm pretty sure we decided at some point as a town that special grass was to be used in our solar arrays.
I don't remember that.
I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah.
Might be,
I mean,
might be.
because-
I kind of vaguely remember us having a conversation with that, but I don't remember it being
Yeah,
a,
I'm gonna look it up
okay.
because
That was that lady that agreed to everything, that they were using that mix, I think, in that one.
the one on 236 that's up and running also used that same mix.
Yeah.
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 Yep.
So I could be confused by that, but I don't know.
Yep.
I wasn't
This is our
involved in
checklist with help.
236.
Yep.
I don't remember much about solar, but I do remember that.
Yep.
So
Okay.
Non-payable.
Any more informational items?
none for me.
No.
All right, next is the adjournment.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Okay, second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? All right,